Hello, Val Verde. Sad times today. Sad times. I have a written statement here from Mr. Jackson that he would like me to read out. I've not read this yet, so we'll see what he has to say. Dear Val Verde Broadcasting, I am sorry that I can't be there tonight, but alas, my crippling gooch rot, coupled with a chronic bout of halitosis, anal warts, and hep C, mean that I am unable to join the other meat sack for this evening. I would like to state the following, and he writes this in pink, which is bizarre. I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair. Well, we know that's bullshit for a start. Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is a very special episode of... Well, not, it's not an episode, is it? It's a live stream. Hello, we're live. Don't say fuck or bugger. Mr. Price has... Well, has agreed to step into the fray. Mr. Mark Price has agreed to... Director and raconteur, because that's just a fun thing to say. Mark Price has very, very graciously agreed to step into Mr. Jackson's smelly, yeast-ridden shoes. For he is not here, alas. Richard got some last-minute work, so he is off doing that, which is, of course, very important. Keeps the lights on, keeps him in oven pizza. So Mark and I are going to talk about Deep Rising tonight over a very sensible mug of, in my case, mint tea. In your case,
so it never works. It never puts me to sleep. So
is it? What's it got? Has it got valerian root in it? I always have valerian root tea. It smells like piss.
You know what? There's something in there, and I don't. It's my way of battling the urge to either snack or drink alcohol in the evening. So I just go for tea. It doesn't work.
An Irish sleepy tea.
Not today, though. I'm hungover, so... I was drunk yesterday. Yeah, but I probably got some amends to make after last week's Burbs thing, where we basically said 3 sentences about the Burbs, and so, like, all right, now I'm going to say more about Deep Rising.
But it wasn't last week, of course. It was the week before, I think. Yes. Time it.
The week before, even. When you're drunk all the time on tea,
that's it.
You forget what
time
day
becomes
it is.
Irrelevant. No, that's great. Yeah, because we were down in Cornwall, so I jumped into some of that, and it was you, Brad, and Richard, obviously. And I can't remember what you were talking about, but it was not the Burbs. But you know, when is it ever?
I asked. I was like, "Are we being supervised right now?" It's Duncan getting angry that we're not on point.
No.
It was Brad's fault because Brad just rocks up, and then it's like, "Oh, we haven't seen him in a while," so it just turned into him ruining everything with a catch-up. So the trick is, actually, I don't know what the trick is. That is the conclusion for you to draw, sir. It is your channel.
I think that seems to be
Brad distract.
Very good. Yeah. Well. Yeah, man. No. Well, thank you so much for agreeing. I think you forgot that you agreed to do this, so I reminded you today. But that's it. Yes. I know. So it's good to ask you things when you're drunk. Clearly, ask Mark anything of an evening and then guilt trip him the next day. That's how it works for me. That's how I get cast in all his movies. So, Deep Rising then. I'm looking forward to this. I haven't watched this in ages. This was always the film that when you put on Channel 5 at 2 a.m. as a teenager, it was just on a loop or something, because that seemed to be my experience. It's one of those films I've always picked it up at a certain point in it and not really watched all of it.
It's one that I think I watched it last year because Mike Geary, who you are very familiar with now, having done a film with him, Mike sort of wanted to watch it. We went through a phase where we'd synchronize watch a film every Saturday because they made things interesting. So and he picked Deep Rising as one of his comfort movies. So he put it on. It was like I hadn't seen it in a while, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, it really flows, and it's really good. It's best, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, what's the emotion that he did? What, The Mummy, and
both Mummy. Did he do Van Helsing? I quite enjoyed that. People were a bit hard now. I quite enjoyed that.
I didn't
That
enjoy
was
it at the
fun.
time. I think I saw it at the cinema, and then I kind of thought, eh. It was a lot of. I tell you what, it was. It was a lot of that sort of late '90s, early noughties thing of like. I guess it was a post-Matrix thing where people had to fly around on wires, sort of totally unnaturally. Bit
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
I was thinking about this the other day because I'm watching a few. I don't know. I was doing something that was very era specific. I think I'm reading a book by Paul Hirsch, the editor, and like he did like he edited Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and a couple of John Hughes movies. And I was looking at what he was really, and he was talking about films in the noughties, and I kind of remember thinking, wow, the noughties really weren't the best time for film. I thought they were at the time. I really enjoyed it, but like, there's not much I go back to with much fondness or warmth. There are obviously films. Like, films are never not interesting in any era, but I think I was looking at it recently, going, wow, a lot of what I'm drawn to, perhaps it's nostalgia, being a little bit older. Everything I'm looking back on is just like seems to be like that perfect phase in the '90s where things were miniatures and it just and yeah, I don't know. I just almost be too into the stuff, the mainstream sort of
Yeah,
fun
I mean,
popcorn
I
stuff from
think
the noughties, at least.
there is. I do think because the temptation is always to sort of just blame it on nostalgia. You know, and think I must just be that I'm nostalgic for a specific period. But I do think there was a Rubicon crossed in the sort of early 2000s where we did kind of largely eschew miniature work, and that has led to a very different type of filmmaking. And I think a lot of people have spoken about how 9/11 affected stuff. Yeah,
I was just going to say it. Yeah, the tones of films changed. So because 9/11, not because of it, but it had an influence. So I think 2001 was kind of the last time you saw sort of like a brighter colored palette in things. Then everything got very, very murky for about 5 years. Then everything was very grey and washed out.
Well, and it was also that's when we started to see things like Batman Begins and Casino Royale, and it was just sort of very much kind of the heroes had to be not believable, but yeah, they had to have that. You couldn't have the kind of what would you say, like frivolous attitude or quippy attitude towards being a hero. It had to be serious and costly as well.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. It was interesting thing because I remember there's a thing in this film. There's a tone in Deep Rising that I never cared for in other films, but this one did it really well. And it was the whole sort of, here's a fantastic monster. The reaction to it is, oh, well, you don't see one of those all the time walking to the shops. There's this really sort of like, whatever sort of attitude things. I was like, Indiana Jones never did that. He was always afraid. That's what made him interesting. And, like he didn't know that the plot was keeping him safe. We do. He doesn't know that, and so he doesn't play that. And I think all the sort of the heroes in these sort of movies seemed to play the fact that they knew they were wearing some plot armor.
Yeah. I mean, because I guess we'll get into it. But speaking of Indiana Jones, of course, Harrison Ford was originally was I think their choice to play the lead in this. But obviously Treat Williams. Okay. I guess this is what Treat Williams is most known for, is it? I would have thought. I don't know.
I wonder. Yeah, I mean, because he's one of those he's just one of those actors that's always sort of been there in things. Every time I see him, I'm just really glad he's there because he's just fantastic. And there was there I want to. Was it 1941 he was in, wasn't he? The Spielberg film. I think he was in that. And I know he was knocking about with everyone on. He was mates with everyone. He's in Empire Strikes Back, if you keep your eyes on him.
Excuse me.
But it was like a friendly cameo because I think he was good mates with Carrie Fisher and stuff. So there's lots of behind-the-scenes photos of him and Carrie Fisher. He's like a really cool guy. I have a funny feeling. I want to say he tried for Han Solo, but I'm not sure if he did. Your awesome audience, who was so patient with me the last time I was on, someone's bound.
It sounds like a thing, but because like Kurt Russell did as well, didn't he, and stuff like that. That sort of seems like the same kind of mold. I could see that cut from the same cloth.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to put this. I'm not going to make you. I'm not going to request any impressions, but like Walken, I want to go to the. I want to get one of those Rick and Morty guns. Go to the dimension where Walken was Han Solo.
Well, didn't Kevin Spacey
did
that impression, didn't he? When it was like the Star Wars auditions, was it Han Solo or was it?
He did, yeah.
Back before,
back before,
yes.
back before he was bad.
Well, yeah, but
I
wish I did honestly. Like, I guess I can say it. I can be mean about it now because I never really rated his Walken because it was all just da. That's all he did. Like, he just had that one kind of way of doing it. But yeah. No, Kevin Pollak is very good. He's very good, but he doesn't. He sort of does. Kevin Pollak's one. What was the thing he did about the trick or treat? You know, he's like trick or treat. Quite the conundrum. Trick or treat. I love the thing. What was it? At the end of Seven Psychopaths or whatever, the guy's like comes at him with a shotgun. He's like, "Get your hands up!" It's like, "No, it's like, I've got a gun. I don't care." And he goes, "Why not?" It's like, "I don't want to." He's man. Like, I think a lot of people oversell the kind of Walkenism, and you've also got to do the gruff bit as well. You know, wait.
Yeah.
Because down here, Birdman of the sewer. You know, it's that sort of. You've got to go high to low. I've just got to read out some messages because we're getting some messages coming. Richard McGreevy, first of all, thank you, Richard. You sent us £10 as ein super chat or super chats if you're in Germany. He says, "Hello guys, sorry for the weirdness on Patreon. I hope this can make up for it." Don't know what you're talking about, but I will check Patreon. "My computer has been acting really weird. No hard feelings, dudes." Cool. Duncan, could I cast in one of my stories? Hey, Mark. You mean could you cast me in one of your stories? Yeah, let's talk. I'll get you in touch with my agent. He's a nice man, but fair. Yeah. Andrew Capitz sent us the usual £10 on Patreon. Thank you, Andrew. My dad sent us £10. Says best wishes and congratulations for tomorrow, Duncan. Oh, it's right. Yes, very good. Thank you, Dad.
I was like, is your dad gonna get you on some sort of Running Man hunted human thing?
Could be.
I don't know why.
Congratulations! I'm going to hunt you down and kill you. Annalise, no, I know why you're saying that. Annalise Mosland says, "Evening, guys. Just landed back in the UK after 3 weeks. Oh, it's going to read 3 weeks in the States. So thanks for keeping me awake through the jet lag. Bless you. Well, welcome back. Thank you so much for sending us £5, 5 Earth pounds. Very, very gratefully received. Thank you indeed. Are you going to watch this on YouTube or on? Because it is on YouTube. If anyone wants to watch this along, I guess anywhere in the world, it is. It's been uploaded to YouTube, and that's that.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. So it's 2017 apparently. So no one's fussing to take this one down. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to watch it on YouTube. So I've got the chat window this side, so I can't see my own face, which is perfect for me because any opportunity to avoid that. And then I've got right next to it. This is fucking boring. Sorry, who gives a shit what my laptops look like? But I can read everyone's messages. I won't describe my laptop.
Gotcha. Well, it is also on Disney Plus, where I was going to watch it, but I suppose if I watch it on YouTube, then we shouldn't have any syncing issues. So I shall also watch it on YouTube, which is available to buy on YouTube right below the free upload that someone did, as you say, over 3 years ago, which is shocking. It's probably in Wankovision. I don't think it's in particularly high def. 240p. Nah.
Oh, there we go. It's going to be small anyway on mine. So
it's not really the end of the world anyway, because it's just for reference, isn't it? But it's been an age since I saw this, and I don't think I've ever really sat down and watched it all the way through. So I'm quite intrigued to see what it looks like. Probably not hear anything because the sound's off.
See, we'll be talking all the way through it and ruining your experience.
It's all good. Shall we crack on at 20 past, just to give everyone enough time to get up to speed, get their copies ready, and all that good stuff, and then we'll get into it. I gather. When did this come out? 96, I want to say. Was it?
It might have been a bit
98.
late. I think maybe about 97,
Yeah.
98, maybe. Because, yeah, I remember I rented it for £1 in a video shop that was across the road from the flat I was in at the time. I remember going, oh, okay. If you rent it for £1, you just take it over the afternoon. You have to bring it back the same day, and that's it. So I was like, oh, that's a bargain. So I gathered some pennies and I went, I'll have a big squid movie, please. Because that's the thing in this film. Is there ever a point where we're not meant to think it's a squid? Because there is a bit of a thing at the end. Sort of spoilers, but we assume everyone's seen it, right? If not, this isn't the way to watch it. But at the end, when it's revealed as a big squid and it's all played, it's like there was never any doubt in my mind that that's what it was.
I mean, it's a sort of yes, it's sort of just tentacles with a mouth, I guess. So I suppose maybe you think it's multiple snake creatures or something.
I think that was the idea, but I think I never once thought that, and I don't know. Like the movie never had me convinced of that. I was like, oh, they didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they all seem to sort of emanate from one place anyway. So surely, yeah, it would have to be some sort of. I mean, it's a bit. Again, spoilers, but it's a bit disappointing when it turns up at the end and it's a big sort of testicle. It's a bit. It's not really.
In the sort of early CG, I tell you something that's really weird. And again, someone might know this. I remember when the guy falls out of the tentacle, it looked... But when I watched it recently, I thought, shit, that actually looks really good for a late 90s visual effect. And I wonder, does anyone know if they've tweaked it slightly? I'm guessing not, because if it's been on YouTube for about 5 years...
I don't think...
No one gives a shit to update
No,
it.
It's not the kind of thing that's going to get a 4K remastering. It's like Terminator 2 style upgrade. But yeah, I mean, I remember thinking like the practical effects. Because Rob Bottin and stuff did all the creature effects and that, which is pretty impressive. And I think it looks good. I think it's very good. I mean, again, from what I remember, I think it was quite good at. It was one of those, again, very much in that era of like Event Horizon and stuff. Like really great at the setup, less good at the payoff. They were very good at writing strong first and second acts, and then it all kind of got a bit wayward towards the end. But I think this fell prey to the onslaught of Titanic. I think this, because I know this was Titanic was 97, wasn't it? But that still had that lasting effect, I think, into 98. It was like a thing on a boat, like no one was going to see that. And probably Titanic was still in the cinema at that point, because that seems to be.
Yeah, if you see one movie with a boat this year, see
I watched that again recently, actually, like a few weeks. It is though. I mean, that's the thing.
It's so fucking excellent. I watched it not so long ago, and I was just like, Jesus fucking Christ, this film is excellent. I love. I mean, I enjoy the melodrama. I'm not there to see a Paul Greengrass fucking gritty handheld movie. I'm there to see a sweeping 1940s feel cinema thing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was watching the James Cameron masterclass videos recently. I haven't got through them all yet, but my God, he's just fucking excellent. I know people like to not like him because of like what one movie he made that no one liked or whatever, but Jesus Christ, the guy knows his shit, and it's just amazing to hear him talk about it more candidly than I've heard him talk about it before. Like he really actually. I mean, I would recommend giving it a watch if anyone's
cool.
A fan.
Where can you watch it?
I think I get them. I don't know. You sort of subscribe to them. It's sort of like a little channel. I don't know if it's that cheap. But there's this. I think Herzog does one. Scorsese's done one. I watched Scorsese's. That was great. Ron Howard's got a really interesting one. He talks a lot about Frost Nixon. Like he seems to really I like Frost Nixon a lot. I think it's great, but like he bangs on about it a lot, and I'm like, oh, could it be a Paul 13? I mean, I really film. It's actually what's really interesting is he sets up. He just makes up on the spot. This is how we're going to shoot a scene, and this is how we block it. I found it really encouraging because I was just like, oh wow, we've been there. When I walk into a room and go, really don't know what we're going to do for this. Okay, I think if we did this, and to see someone else do it and go, oh, okay, and this is what he's suggesting people do. It's like, okay, that validates the mess that I make
Yeah,
on
I
my
mean, he of
nonsense.
course
So
has
it's kind of fun,
giant sets
kind of
and
nice.
you know B unit and stuff, I guess, to go off and. But yeah, no, absolutely, it's I
Whereas I'm like, real mud, Duncan. Sorry, if you could just lie in it, we'll give you a shower at the end of the
can't
day.
guarantee it'll be warm, but
Sorry.
you'll get a shower. Yeah, no, but yeah, but that's part of it. I love that as well. I love that kind of side of filmmaking. It's one of those like you always know you're lying there like in the discomfort, but you're like, yeah, but this is in a month's time. I'm not going to get. I'll be fine again. I'll have gotten over whatever cold I get, and there'll be something cool looking on screen. So that's unless I die, and then I'm not so happy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all right. We've been okay so far. No one's died
Days
yet.
without incident. Right. Maybe one of those flip things. Right, I'm gonna tell everyone to hit go because we're 8:23. So I'm gonna count you in from 3 because that's a sensible number, and the idiot what always counts in from 20 isn't around today. So if you've all got your copies of Deep Rising at the 0 mark with your finger hovering deftly, quivering over the play icon, because it's probably not a button. Get ready to press play in 3, 2, 1, go. I should have come up with a funny word to say instead of go, but I didn't. So there you go.
It would have confused everything if you just go, no, wait, stop at the top. And then it would have been like a mess. So I've got the Hollywood Pictures logo just popped up on mine.
Far below.
That's all looking good. Far below the South China Sea lies an underwater mountain. You're in the way, Duncan.
I
range with canyons deep enough to hide the layers. Deeper than any man.
Except not now, ironically, thanks to James Cameron. Because he went down into the Mariana Trench, didn't he? Anyway, throughout the centuries, countless. Oh, I missed it. Anyway.
Oh, we missed it. Fuck, I don't know
what
it's about now. Jerry Goldsmith's score. Which I was very, very pleased with myself for not good at spotting composers and going, oh, this is clearly this person. But I spotted that when I was watching it the last time, of which I have no evidence. You're all just going to have to believe me. And I was just like, I think this is Jerry Goldsmith. But I didn't want to Google. I just wanted to sort of like see if I could get the full lay of the land. And it turns out it was. Which, if it says at the beginning, I just didn't notice.
Cool. Yeah, so this is obviously a sort of Jaws homage, I guess, at the start, isn't it?
Yeah. They had the little sort of seagull-y type sounding things, didn't they? I always assumed it was underwater sounds of seagulls.
Right.
That's what the shark used. But I don't know. I don't know if that was what the intent was, but I always loved it.
Yeah.
It was a similar
yeah, there's a lot of homage shots in this as well. I think there's stuff that sort of homages Predator, I believe, and various other things. But yeah, no, this is one of those films that we've come to a bunch of films on this that I've then felt like I ought really to go back and watch properly. But then you sort of don't want to when you've kind of been through it visually. You're like, let's sit through it all again. But I would like to see it properly because it's been a long time. But quite the 90s cast, this, isn't it? Because isn't Wes Studies in it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought I saw someone say in the chat that he's always Magua to him, and I'm like, that's what I've got a select few friends that when I say, oh, Magua's in this film, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like,
of course,
he's the Last of the Mohicans. Yeah. I think he is. It's been a long time, but he's great. He's an avatar. There's a James Cameron link to everything today. I think.
Good point.
Or maybe I'm just finding.
Yeah, I think
I'm looking for them and finding them.
Yeah, because I was used to, it used to be sort of fashionable to rag on Titanic, but actually, like having matured and watched it, and romance, stupid romance. It's like, if you're going to make a film about the Titanic, either you're going to make essentially a docudrama, or you have to inject it with a certain, what else are you going to do? Like a love story makes perfect sense, and it works really well. So. Oh yeah,
I was Billy Zane making it off. I was like, oh, I wanted to see him die horribly. Okay, I think it was the only thing the film didn't quite deliver. And it was confusing because I thought, well, no, hang on, I could easily find out who survived the Titanic. Why are you having your fictional characters survive? I kind of expected everyone to die. Yeah, but
Mark Flanagan's.
I'm fine with
Mark Flanagan sent us $5 dues and says, "What happened to Stephen Summers? Is he in director jail?"
What was the last thing he did? Was it wasn't G.I. Joe, was it? That was a long time ago. If it was, I think he's done more since. But it could have been just a couple of, because he's like a working man director, isn't he? So all it takes a couple of them to go wrong. That's it, and then he'll just do that because it's secure and easier. And it's like trends, isn't it? With studio, some studio directors, or most actually, I think, is that they'll do their bit for a while, then they'll go off and either do smaller films or television. Like Joe Dante's directing episodes of Legends of Tomorrow, which is pretty awesome. Like I have two friends. Yeah, I have two friends in that show. I should ask them and say, like, being directed by Joe Dante.
Can I come? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Sorry, my computer's been really slow. I think it's because I've got lots going on.
Oh, yeah, I sense an ambitious shot coming up. Look at this. It's going to go right. It's going to go right in there. Look at that shot.
Tickle.
Look at that. Remember shots like that being a big deal. Oh my God, it's going to keep going.
There's this one take. Are you a particular fan of the one take? It seems like sort of the Valhalla of all directors is to try and shoot a giant one take. Is that?
I think it depends what it's doing. Really, I like the I like the smaller ones. Not necessarily a big. I like the ones that don't call attention to themselves and you don't notice following someone and their hands off to something else and then their hands off to something else and you're just getting a good sense of geography through the movement and energy in the filmmaking and the storytelling. I mean, that's the stuff I love, and that doesn't often need to be, the stuff that where I really love it. It doesn't need to be that long. But when it's for me, it's more a thing of like I don't really want to see someone walking all the way from there to there.
Yeah, I think when it's done in service of sort of like obviously something like Goodfellas does it perfectly, and 1914, obviously the whole
Nights.
but that's always in service of character and not in sort of an obviously indulgent thing. I mean, there's that one in Children of Men, a film that I think is brilliant, but that one take that goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Or it starts to lose me at a certain point. I start to go, hang on. I suddenly get what they're going for, and I'm like, I think you've done this just to show off. I don't think this actually serves. I don't want like a realistic sort of war-torn shootout, ghetto style, whatever, in my film about, protecting the last mother on earth or whatever. It's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. It was that film was not fun. Very, very miserable experience. I liked it a lot though. That's one of the ones I did like, I think. I can't think of ones I don't. I mean, I don't think there's ever a long shot that I don't like. It's one of those things where you're aware you're watching it. You wonder what the motivation is sometimes, and I think I'm terrible. I'm kind of, because of where I am in this sort of directing position, I look at other directors and go, all right, there's a reason they wanted this, even if it's just because they wanted it. That's perfectly valid, So I'm not like I've never really been offended by them. But like there are things like Boogie Nights. The one at the end of Boogie Nights I really love for technical reasons because I think it's such a shallow depth of field following Burt Reynolds around the house, and I was just like, wow, that's that to me is a really complicated one. That one doesn't get talked about very often. But that's one that really blows me away. There's some great ones in Magnolia. I think Paul Thomas Anderson's earlier films had some of the best for me. But I like those. I like the Spielbergy type ones. I think those ones. I grew up watching those films and never noticed the one in Back to the Future with Doc Brown in the hallway and Marty walking up to the camera and then walking away. All that stuff. And that's a single take shot. I remember Brad was about to start a film, and I just for a joke, so I said to him, If in doubt, rip off this shot, and I'll see if I can spot it in the film. Like if you have a tough day, rip off this shot. If I spot it in the film, I'm like, yes, good work. But no, Brad's a much better filmmaker than me, so he so he actually he was never starved of ideas. So yeah, he never had that.
What was I going to say? Yeah, there's one in Indiana Jones, isn't there? There's a fairly long take. Yeah.
There's a couple of really good ones in Indiana Jones. Yeah, the whole drinking game is
Right.
a single shot crane, so it gives you your wide, your mids, your close ups. It's brilliant. It's a character introduction as well. I think that's the sort of, and I like the way that some of these things are sort of seamlessly put together. Actually, like our friend Ben just did a film with Scott Adkins, I think, which was all a series of linked up single shots. Yeah, I think it's called One Shot.
See, I should have thought of that. Yeah, it's his birthday actually today.
I did. I saw that. Yeah, I sent him the old Facebook.
Yeah, we were swapping voice, like the WhatsApp voice messages and baby pictures and stuff. But he's yeah. I knew he'd done something. Because he sent me a message a while back saying, "Oh yeah, I'm here with Scott and blah blah blah." And and then he was the obligatory. Oh, we wanted to get you on, but there just wasn't a role or whatever. And that's fine. It's all good. I don't know. Do you feel like kind of pressured into casting people? You should. Yes.
Yes, and I always spell Duncan, I promise from now on. Like I'll give you a fiver and a sandwich. I'll show up and add some class to my movie. I can't argue with that. That's a fair deal to me, man. Yeah, no, I think because Phil DeGuara, right, from Fistful of Lead. Phil is very blatant about it, and part of me is like, does he know it makes me feel really awkward? And I was like, but like, it's generally all right. I mean, I can say whatever I want about Phil. You ain't never gonna watch. Like, he's like, what's YouTube, Pricey? What's YouTube? Like, it's a thing that's been around for quite a while now, buddy, and it's good. Remember, like, every night you just get drunk and say, "You're my new best friend, Duncan. Do Christopher Walken. Do Homer Simpson."
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and then he said, I said to him, like, I do it on YouTube actually, and he was like, "Oh yeah, where's that?" And at the time, it was obviously with Oliver, so he went. I told him to go look at the channel, and we met up later. He was like, "Oh yeah, I watched it. It was really boring." And that's not me. I'm not ragging on Oliver or anything, but he was just like, because I think he'd gone and watched one of his retrospectives or something, and I was like, no, okay, never mind. Don't worry.
That's Phil. Phil's like, I would ask Phil, I go, "Oh, Phil, have you seen, this film?" He goes, "Oh, am I in it?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Dad, I only watch stuff I'm in." His shameless vanity
knows no bounds. Yeah,
brilliant.
I'm the opposite. I really don't. I will watch films I'm in maybe once, but after that, I'm not really a fan. I just don't.
I think he was having his own film festival a few months ago. He was like, "Have you got the link to this film we made?" I went, "Yeah, okay, here you go." And then the next night he was like, "Have you got a link to this one?" And I was like, "Have you just spent a week watching films you're in? Like, do you watch the whole film, or was it your bit? So were you just texting the whole time and looked up when it was your bit?" It's like I've got him naked in night shooters, just naked and shivering in a chair because he'd do it. Phil's a...
Nice. No.
Great to work with because I don't know what the fuck he's going to do, and I enjoy that surprise, and I enjoy what he brings out of other actors.
Yeah.
You guys didn't get much of him in Fistful there, did you? It was all
no. I didn't really get any interaction with him on camera because spoilers, he gets shot.
Yeah.
By the time he's in any kind of frame with me, he gets shot. So.
Yeah, I don't even think. Like, yeah, it was all. Yeah, I don't think. So, yeah, but yeah, he's still. I really liked him in that film as well.
No, he's great. He's loved. In fact, most people would probably know him as the anti-smoking guy, right? Because he did that. that ad that was on TV, that horrible ad where a guy goes outside for a fag and then the fag grows like a tumour while he's smoking it, and it's like, fags, don't do fags or whatever. And but yeah, no, he was he was great, man. He was a laugh, and it's nice to have personalities like that as well. You know, it's nice to have big personalities around.
Yeah, the funny thing about him in that advert as well was we were like, Jesus, Phil, you look terrible. Like, you know, how'd they do that with the makeup? And with glee, he went, I'm not wearing any makeup. And I'm like, you're happy about that? I mean, you look really sick. You should have.
I didn't even smoke before that. I went out and started quite a habit just to make myself look like shit.
No, that's fucking true. Did you not know that he quit? And then they offered him they to get the audition. He pretended that he still smoked, and then they did so many takes that he's like, "Fuck, I smoke again now."
The irony,
that fucking happened.
The horrible, bitter irony. That's awful.
Oh God, I love it. That was those were some fun times making all those, because this is before I knew you. We were making a bunch of movies in there's a pub in Turin called the Antelope, and we just saw, like, we had the run of the place. So we filmmaker friends were really kind of down on the how they were actors mainly, and they were just down on themselves, thinking, how can we do this? Like, how can we survive in this industry? They went to Cannes and they saw the film market, and they were just like, all these films I've never heard of with actors who I really love, and I'll never see them because no one will buy them. And I think it hit them a little bit hard. And I said, well, look, making a film is easy these days. Let's just make one. So I just drafted this quick idea and said, let's improvise this whole action movie. We'll do a Ninja Siege movie. And I think we called it Way of the Monkey's Claw. Because I'm like, fuck it, that's a title and a half. And so that's what we did. So we made this little, like, action movie in about, I think we shot it in 10 days. I edited it with Dave Nolan, like, breathing down my neck in 14 days. And then we sound designed it for about a month, you know, just creating sound effects and stuff like that. And, you know, then making a stew out of all the vegetables that we broke to try and get good punches. And yeah, it was just a really bizarre experience. The film was ridiculous, but, like, it's quite a good laugh. I'm in it. I'm a villain in it. I'm the main villain with a bag over his head. Because if you want a good performance over me, just throw a bag over my head.
I seem to remember you sending me footage from that, I think. Was it, what was the film?
What, and you still work with me? Jesus Christ, mate, you're great.
No, I'm kidding. What was it, Magpie? Is it Magpie? What's the film you made? Didn't you make that in
Magpie, yeah,
as well, or was some of that in
we shot some stuff in there for Magpie. Yeah, it was Magpie was like that was like just like a really small film I did. That was like, no one's going to see this, and yeah, no one did. But it was just like a completely different type of film. I wanted to try improvising a film from start to finish. But the way I do that is I have like a scene. I'll structure it so this scene, then this, and this, and this leads on to this. So we'd all know what was happening, but I wouldn't write a script. I just sort of get the actors together, and then over breakfast we'd sort of work through what we need ready to use that trick then in anything. So if I'm ever shooting something and we get stuck, I'm like, look, we can do better than this. I don't think we had that on Fistful of Lead, but like the scenes you were in, like in the mine scenes with like Caitlin and Emily and James and yourself, I would have been totally comfortable saying, look, let's, like, fuck these pages, let's come up with something else. If we needed to. I think at one point we nearly did, but I think I just rewrote something. But yeah, it's cool, man. I really enjoyed that sort of process. You only do that with actors like you guys. Like, so you just stick good ones in a room and say, right, make this better. I'm gonna have a coffee.
Yeah. I mean, it's a collaborative process. I mean, I think that's the thing I find, sort of, you know, anyone taking credit for all of it, even performance. I mean, that's the thing you come to realise as well. It's like, you can give the best performance, but if it's edited badly, it's not going to work. If it doesn't have the right coverage, it's not going to work. You know, you could give your best take in one where it's out of focus. Like if it's soft for whatever reason and they can't use it, So there's just so much that isn't within your control, and so for me it's a case of just enjoy. I've sort of come to learn, like, turn up and enjoy the work, just enjoy having a good day at work, and then obviously with a view to making the best film that you can, but I think, and then just having fun and being creative, and then the rest of it, there's nothing you can do about it. And it's not even up to the editor or you or anyone. There's going to be so many things that come into play, and sort of, you can't do this or you can't do that, and so you've got to improvise and cut around it or whatever. So it's
Yeah, I wonder if they might be setting up my sound actually. Because a couple of people have said Mark's gone.
Yeah, I can hear you. Maybe a bit out of sync,
and you can hear me, right?
Not sort of,
Okay,
fine.
I just put I just wrote in the chat window. Can you guys hear me? It's Mark.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, guys, so let us know if I think Mark's sound might be a bit out. That's possibly down to my laptop, because obviously you're going through Skype into OBS and then from OBS to YouTube, so it might be causing a little bit of a lag. Whereas I think I'm going direct via my web-based camera. We always have to do silly Alan Partridge quotes, which isn't a quote because he never said that. But there we go. Look at all these 90s graphics, man. It's hilarious.
And my business.
Nice. But
oh, there you go. Seems the connection's dropping out occasionally. Okay. I'm sure we just plow through hard. Hope for the best.
Right. Sorry, everyone. I know it's not as slick as when Richard does it. Bearing in mind, I'm carrying the can, so apologies. And it's also on my. I think Richard has like super duper internet, whereas I just have home broadband, so it's probably a bit squiffy. But sorry about that. But yeah, yes. Well, I sort of do lament in a way the passing of these kinds of films, because I would like to see something, and I do think there's probably scope for stuff like this to be done. I mean, obviously we're going into quote unquote the new normal now, and I like to think. I mean, I suppose people say a lot about what's going to change in cinema. I don't think we're going to see that very quickly, because obviously we've got this huge backlog of films, certainly in terms of Hollywood, that have to come out and get out, and so we're going to have a big season of those kinds of movies again. But I think when the dust settles, I'd like to see. I mean, Richard and I have spoken about this before. I want to see some more. I want to see some more stuff like that. Sort of 30-40 mil budget stuff, because.
Yeah, you know what? It might. It's like a friend of mine's doing. He's writing and directing the new Evil Dead movie. So he's in New Zealand shooting that right now. And I'm not sure what sort of budget they've got for that. I haven't asked him. But because funny enough, you don't ask. I find I don't ask those sort of things. But I know that Rob Savage is doing a sort of small budget, single location film for Sam Raimi as well. So yeah, and I think that if those films are extremely successful, I think that we'll see it'll set a trend, because that's all it takes. A couple of good, and of course Blumhouse have sort of been doing that as well. I think all those sort of, was it the Dark Universe sort of Universal monster movies, like they all managed to somehow not make enough money, but then Blumhouse does The Invisible Man for like a quarter of the budget of those other films, and it makes a fuck ton of money, and everyone's like, yep, this is great. we'll let Blumhouse do them now. So I mean, that might be where it goes. They may take on
even in the superhero genre, which is where people are spending all the big bucks at the moment. Some of the biggest successes: Deadpool, Wolverine, or what was it? Logan. All that stuff that was shot for pennies on the dollar, pretty much. It's like that. They're lauded as being big thing. I mean, wasn't like a lot of Deadpool's success led into them trying to make R-rated stuff out of the other things, and it was just like, but that was made creatively on a budget. They had to work around the limitations. You don't have to spend $300 million. You just don't.
Yeah, it's and I don't know where it kind of all goes on visual effects anyway, doesn't it? And it's kind of like, but I kind of like the innovative way of making those sort of. I was just watching
we're talking about special effects and the lady. That doesn't make sense. Isn't the thing like the monster sucks you like swallows you or something and digests you while you're still alive, and then spits out your skeleton. Because they find a room full of skeletons later on, and it's like, well, so it's a really arresting image, obviously, to see a woman get sucked down a toilet and explode in a big like spray of blood, but it's like, but that's not what it does though. And also, if you suck someone into a toilet, like a toilet has an immediate U-bend that is like that big, so it's kind of like, well,
when was the last time you were on a luxurious boat like this one, Duncan? Maybe it's only us pros that have those U-bends, and
high society,
real rich people.
Yeah, have a large bore. Large bore soil stack that goes straight from the toilet bowl directly into the sea.
And the water that flushes the tears of orphans, it's all the those skiddies on those toilets. No, it's the thing about that effect though is kind of a really fun one to do, because there's literally someone just going and then flailing below shot, and someone with one of those pango guns that we had blasting blood up at the screen, which is quite up at the.
But there are things as well, because I think
so
we've spoken about this before here. We there's it's things like the cinematic language, right? There are shorts like cars always explode if they're on fire, or if they go off a cliff, or if there's a red barrel full of gasoline and you shoot it, there's a big explosion. There's
sometimes a car goes off the cliff and the terror of impact causes it to explode before it touches the ground.
Yeah, see Dr. No. And what's the other one? Yeah, but isn't it the hearse goes down the cliff and it just explodes before it hits the bottom? And there's other things as well, like things like that, right? The lady getting sucked down the toilet and the blood going. It's like that probably wouldn't happen, but it's like it's dramatic. There's things as well. You're telling a story through a window, so you have to show it in certain ways, and it's a language. You're watching a language. You're not watching necessarily a. It's like when people go, "Oh, I couldn't get into that. Oh, I just didn't believe a word they said, or whatever, or didn't believe. It wasn't believable that so and so was like that." And it's like, yeah, but was it meant to be though? Yeah,
I don't get that mindset. A lot of what happens in films is not what happens. Like the majority of it is not what happens. Like even true stories, like they change shit. It's kind of like the reason was it like the Braveheart thing? It's like I can get it when it pushes a thing too far, and it's like, well, why are you telling this story if you're gonna just fucking change everything? But that said, I've never looked at Braveheart as an educational experience, so I can thoroughly enjoy it.
It's an emotional education.
But people think that happened. People think that shit is how it went down. And it's like,
no.
Definitely
I mean, it's the same. Like we were talking about Titanic, weren't we? There's a bunch of stuff that there's a load of sort of shorthand in there, like because apparently, like the captain, although he went down with the ship, he was seen. They believe they saw him swimming amongst the survivors or something. Right. So they think he died actually later on and had gotten off the ship. But
witnesses saw him jumping. I think I only learned this last week, funnily enough. Someone saw him and was it Andrews? They were together. Went, well, okay, it's time to go, and then they jumped off. That was it. That was lost. I think that was the last they were seen. There's a rumor that he went up to one of the capsized boats and says, "There's room for me on this one," and they said, "No, there isn't." He went, "Okay, thank you, good luck, everyone," and then went off. There's a theory that that's him, but he went. That there was an officer on that boat, and he would have known it was the captain, so he would have said, "Yeah, I saw," and instead it's just a thing. So I think the last he was seen officially was jumping off the side. But hey, it's a great visual.
That's it.
In the film.
Well, yeah, because he's on the bridge and he goes as it explodes, and he goes down with his ship, and it's you're telling an emotional story. I mean, bearing in mind that you've got fictional protagonists in it anyway, and that's the point, isn't it? The point is to tell the emotional story. I mean, they literally have the heart of the sea in it, right? I mean, that's not so subtle, but that's that's the point, and it's an old lady's.
It's as subtle as
exactly. And it's about Rose's story, isn't it? It's being told through her eyes, so you have to remember it's a subjective account. It's not real, and there's nothing wrong with that, because actually the story you're telling, it's not supposed to be a Titanic simulator. It's supposed to be an emotional arc that you go on. I realise we're talking about Titanic more than Deep Rising, which is not what people tuned in for, and I apologise.
I know a lot more about Titanic than I know about
Yeah, I think I do at this point. But yeah, I mean, these are all great stuff. Do you think this was done on a tank somewhere? Must have been.
that
Yeah.
tank. That one there, yeah. Yeah, that's a tank. I think it was that. I know. I mean, I'm no expert. I think the water looked a little
Yeah.
unsea.
If you've ever
like,
been on a
you saw it.
backlot tank, they're big. Like I did Dark Shadows, and we used the one at Pinewood, and you can sort of tell
Yeah.
because the water's not really. It's sort of just moving like a pond, really. It's not, even though they put machines in and
Yeah.
stuff to make it move in there. It's not. Yeah.
It's hard to get that aggressive fucking. The sea is not like we. Well, speaking of Magpie, the film we did, we shot a sequence in the sea. Fucking hell, it was. Yeah, I there was a point I swam out to a boat, and it's like I was like, oh, it's not that far away, and I was swimming to it, and I was like, yeah, this is taking a lot longer than I thought. And then I started thinking about that, the rumored great white swimming around, and I went, shit. I went, great, now that's in my head, and I was like, all right, so. It's going to take me just as long to go back. I may as well keep going to the boat. But then that was in my head the whole time. And I went, you know what? This is my destiny to be the first fucking human to get attacked by a shark in British waters. That's my legacy. That's what's going to happen. And of course, I made it to the roof. But yeah.
Alanis Morissette playing in your head as you were swimming out. Yeah, no, because like obviously going swimming in the only time I've been swimming with sharks in the Bahamas, but I've not great whites obviously. The only time I ever got worried was I was in the Bahamas on an island called Harbour Island, and I just got out of my depth off the edge, and I saw a barracuda. Because the water there is so clear, you can be at sort of that level and still see things. And I just saw it floating, looking at me, and I was wearing a watch, I think, and they see their whole deal is like if they see things glinting, they just go for it and bite, and they come in from nowhere and take it. So I was like, okay, and yeah. But that was one of those don't panic, but you have to turn your back on it and start swimming. You're like, please. It's just like swim and just hope and be calm and cool and do.
Imagine, mate, then it appears in front of you and you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay, I don't know how to deal with this. Have you seen that film, The Reef?
Ages ago.
I fucking loved it. It was, I think it was, the trouble is it doesn't necessarily land for people because I think the behavior of the shark is actually quite curious. It's not like a monster. And so it's just circling and they can't see it because you turn away and it's gone. Because they move that quick, you don't realize even when they're cruising, they're out of sight. But then you turn around and it's there, and it's just circling and getting closer and closer. And I think it's like one of the most amazingly tense films. I highly recommend it. The Reef. I think it's on Netflix still. It comes and goes from there. But that filmmaker, I forget his name. He does some amazing tense animal. There's a part of me, even though I kind of think most of the movies are bollocks. He does very good animal attack tension, and he did another one where a bunch of like spelunkers are stuck in this sort of underground thing with a crying. It's great. It's like as an adult to watch something and go, oh my god, this situation's really fucking me up. Like it's really kind of cool. I was like, so I don't get that very often. Yeah, I can't remember. I think that was called Blackwater Rising or something.
Something Rising.
Or something. But that's a good movie. They're all on
There's
Netflix.
sequels to this apparently. I was going through IMDb earlier. Yeah, there are sequels to this.
Really?
Um,
I want to see what all those dinosaurs were on that island.
Oh yeah, of
I wanted to
course.
see that movie.
I forgot the end of this.
It's got a really fun ending. Like it's. I assume it's an ending that is just look at this cool ending, like the lady gremlin being alive at the end of Gremlins 2. I'm like, it's just a funny ending. It's not something to take too seriously. But like, yeah, this I was like, I enjoyed it so much. I was like, oh wow, that would be great.
Yeah, this is. I mean, again,
Man.
this is one of those sort of things where it's like it's in the horror genre, but you're not supposed to take it too seriously, and it's also it's one of those sort of adventure horrors that we just don't make, do we anymore? No one wants to make adventure horror stuff. Um, but even stuff like The Goonies is kind of adventure horror. I know it's much more sort of toned down. It's not as gross, but that still has horror elements, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, all the I mean, it's all the sloth stuff is really funny, and it's funnier now for some reason. But oh man,
Famke Janssen, of course. I suppose we also talk about Famke Janssen, and this would have been. I always assumed that this was sort of pre-Goldeneye, but it wasn't. Obviously, yeah.
No, this was after, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a pre X-Men, right? So she's great. Like in like everything I've seen her in, she's been really, really good.
Sure,
so.
yeah. Well, look, I mean,
she's the Bond women.
Yes, yeah. It's a small. I mean, I don't know why that is. I think potentially sometimes it's because they're hired. Either they're hired and they're known in their home country better, and they continue their career. Because like Isabella Scorupco, for example, she's Polish, I think, and she's known there, like, and she's known elsewhere, of course. But you know, in terms of Hollywood, she's not really done. She did Goldeneye and one of the Exorcist prequels, I think, and that's about it. Oh, she's in Reign of Fire, I think, as well. But that's it. So yeah.
Yeah, there's one who did really well. Was she in Centurion? Was that the Neil Marshall, Michael Fassbender film?
Oh, Kurylenko, yeah. She'd sort of got a bit of a name before. She did Quantum of Solace. Like, she was in the Hitman film and something else as well. Yeah, and she'd sort of like she did manage to get a bit of a name for herself. And yeah, now she's doing a lot. She was in November Man, you know, Pierce, yes, movie or something or whatever. Oh. Yeah, and various things. My friend Lee has worked with her as well as a stunt coordinator on something called the Courier, I want to say, or something like that. I think that's just come out on Netflix. Yeah,
I know that title. Yeah, I know that. I've seen that around somewhere. I don't think I've seen the film. But yeah, the thing with Bond, like the women from Bond films, is that they're never like, there isn't a reputation, as far as I'm aware, that they're not good actors. Like, you sometimes get that, right? You know it's sort of like I'm not aware of that. If it is, if like I'm not aware of that as a thing.
Don't think it is as
it's just a thing that they come and then they go, and it's just kind of like they're not really.
I think
cast, but again, we're talking about like a weird time in Hollywood where women were only cast within a certain age bracket, and only a few of them broke into those award-winning roles, which is kind of like it's one of those really depressing things that happened since the 30s. I mean, did you see that TV series Feud about Bette Davis and John Crawford? It's a really great series. It's the guy who did the O.J. Simpson series, and a friend of mine, Dominic, is in it. I watched it because he was in it. He plays Victor Buono, and it's just one of those, like, it's a really sad story about how these women who are just past their prime in terms of age by the standards of the day, and how they're feud to just like, if one of us can get an Oscar, then it'll be, you know. And it's actually really funny and really wittily done, but it really tackles that subject of feeling they've got a lot more to give, but no one will let them.
I mean, I think obviously we're moving away from that more now, and people are I mean, it's definitely worth it, and for good reason. I mean, there are stories to be told about women that aren't just love interest, motherhood, you know, grandma, because, you know, and I get where a lot of that came from initially, and it's not, you know, it's not to pour scorn on the past, but I do think we've moved past it, and in a good way, and not in a sort of misandrist way or in a kind of taking the toys away from the men kind of way. I think we've just done it in a really, like, some of the best films, and we've been doing it for decades at this point. I know a lot of we as a generation, we love to sort of huff our own farts and pretend like we solved all the problems, but really, I mean, it's been going on, for a while, but in a good way. I mean, I think it's and there's still more room to go. But I was thinking this the other day because what came out? Oh, it was the Black Widow trailer because they're pushing that again. And ScarJo was in that, who I'm a huge fan of.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I know that's her most sort of visible thing, but she's excellent in other stuff like Under the Skin, and she's fucking amazing. Yeah,
she's great in everything.
And she and I'm a big champion of hers. And I sort of realised that she's my age. She's 37, and she's still like barnstorming career. Everything's going well, and so I was like, right on. And people like Charlize Theron. We watched Monster the other night. That was really good. She's managed to sort of weather that storm. The only thing that is sort of beyond anyone's control is the fact that if they want to have kids, that's what really fucks them up. Because if you get into your late 20s, right when your career is starting to ascend, and then suddenly you've got to take time out to go and have children, it's really tough. But
wasn't Alison Doody cast? Peter Jackson wanted her to play Eowyn in Lord of the Rings, and she was pregnant. Said, "I can't, I'm pregnant." And so that's how Miranda Otto got cast in that role. And when Spielberg asked Miranda Otto to be in War of the Worlds because he's like, his kids loved Lord of the Rings, she said, "Oh, I'm pregnant," and he was like, "Oh, we'll work it into the script. Don't worry about it." I was like, it's kind of great.
I mean, it's difficult because obviously you change so rapidly, even in a matter of months. So it's very hard to be. I guess you can work around that. You can build a prosthetic to make yourself look more pregnant, and then take it away as you get pregnant or whatever. It's like, I agree, and I think there are. It's like we watched something the other night where, what was it? It was an episode of something anyway where there was a pregnant woman in an apartment, and it was all the usual sort of like, oh, I'm getting contractions. Oh, my waters have broken. And 10 minutes later, the baby's there, and it's like, that is not how that works at all. like I've been through the process now. I'm like, that is bullshit. This is Hollywood. Like, oh my god, my waters are broken. What? My waters are broken. Yeah, exactly. Try like a 52-hour labour followed by an emergency C-section. It's probably more likely. That's not what happened in our case, but that we know people do that happen to. It's like, come on, that's bollocks. But again, filmmaking shorthand, isn't it? We have to tell a story, and it's not really about putting a realistic labour on screen. It's about what that baby is.
The baby's got to look cute. It can't come out covered in shit and fucking. They want it like, oh, it's got to look cute. So
yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I always liked the thing in TV series where where a main character would get pregnant and then they'd find a way to incorporate it into the story so that they could work it in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They had her be a surrogate who heartlessly gave her baby away and didn't give a fuck because they're terrible people. Let's all get a beer. And it's just so brilliantly handled in how horrible it was. And that they had I know this is, you're not going to love this one too much. There's a good one in Star Trek where one of the actors got pregnant, and that character is one that doesn't really have those sort of relationships. So they're like, shit, what do we do? There's a transporter accident. We had to put your baby into that person so that, there we go, problem solved. She has to bring it to term because of science fiction reasons. And I was like, I always thought that was nice. Really sweet.
I would like to see.
Instead of, I got to go on a mission for 4 months and you'll not see me for most of the season. Like, I love they found a sci-fi way to work it in. I was like, that's kind of great.
I do think don't get me wrong, there are just certain things you can't. Like, wasn't it Thingy Young, who she cast as Catwoman, and then Sean Young, and then got pregnant or something and couldn't do it. That's why Michelle Pfeiffer.
All right, I thought she didn't get cast.
It was one of that.
Get cast. And Tim Burton
it's that, or it was Vicky Vale, because I know she was supposed to do that and then couldn't. One of them she fell off a horse, and the other she was pregnant or something or whatever. I mean, it's it's bullshit. I mean, I think things are getting better, but it's one of those. The problem is you can make the case and say, well, look, Scarlett Johansson's still working, and Charlize Theron and all this sort of stuff, but it's like, and there are thousands and thousands of actresses or female actors, or who who still don't get the only reason why they're kept going is because they have a well-deserved but established name that means they're still bankable.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're nobody,
Yeah.
they're not going to wait around for you to have your baby. They're not going to put in special measures. It's just, sorry, recast, because, you know, we can't afford it.
Yeah.
Sadly, you know, which sucks. But, you know, it'd be good to find a way to figure that out. So...
Yeah, I think it's everything's like a case by case basis. I think all you can sort of do is sort of be supportive. Daisy was so in Dune Drifter. Daisy Aikens was she you know she had a baby and she was like, I'm breastfeeding. It's like I have to, you know, I've kind of got to have a baby around, and so we scheduled the days like so that we could be as accommodating as possible. And you know those costumes, like they're hard work. It's not getting them on and off. I mean the helmet is a 2-minute job. Which doesn't sound like much, but the costume stuff then is they're hard, they're proper like you know they are airtight because they're dry suits. So yeah, that would take ages to get on and off as well. And if anyone had to go to the bathroom, that was basically a 10-minute, 15-minute break. You know, it doesn't sound like much, but on a film where every second counts, you know, it can really be a lot. But you know, it's just we were like, we want Daisy. Daisy's excellent, so we were as accommodating as possible for her. And as it turned out, she you know, I think it coincided because of like schedule changes with her weaning the little one off a little bit, or she bottle feed with her mum or something. She did something that was sort of like sort of solved the problem. But we were like, no, we'll do whatever you need. You know, you make the easiest choice for you and we'll work around it. But yeah, but I think that's the ticket, right? Isn't it? The trick is to be as accommodating as you can be for those things, and because it's just right. It just feels right. You know, we're everything. It's a low budget film. Everything's a fucking struggle. It doesn't. It really isn't. Doesn't make a difference. It's just another thing. Yeah. Throw it on the pile and we'll deal with it. You know, it's fine. Look at this.
The thing, yeah, there's another homage,
the rippling floor.
The thing to the thing. But yeah, no, I mean, why not? We should do more shit like that because it's fun. I suppose the thing is nowadays you can easily make the monster come up out the floor, and you know what I mean. Like you can make it happen without having to do that. But I mean, and this I think very much doesn't it fall into the mold of kind of like you don't see the monster, then you start to see bits of the monster, and you only really get the big reveal at the end. Which is just not something that happens anymore. Yeah. You know, not really.
They've done good here as well. I mean, what are we like? 40. This is 45 minutes of them running away from moving floors and growls. You know, it's pretty good. That's pretty good going. That's like nowadays. That's straight.
yeah, absolutely.
I always loved the prick character in this film who looks a lot like Nick Nolte.
Oh yeah,
I always liked him.
He was in X-Men as well, wasn't he?
And
he's Dr. Chilton in Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs, yeah.
Yeah, I forget his name, but he's... was he in X-Men? No, he wasn't. I'm thinking of the other guy who...
I don't know if he was in... I think you're thinking of Bruce Davison, aren't you? The Senator Kelly, right? The jellyfish man. Yeah, it's Bruce Davison. Yeah, I like him. Remember Harry and the Hendersons TV series?
Yeah, he was the dad, wasn't he?
Oh. The film, he was in the TV series of that as George Henson. I love that show, man. That was how I found out Kevin Peter Hall had died. At the end, it just went rest in peace. I went, what? Predator's dead? That's really sad. It's like,
wasn't that a blood transfusion as well? Something went wrong.
Yeah,
like he got AIDS from a blood transfusion or something. That's what killed him, which is awful. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's fucking.
He was great though. I used to love Harry and the Hendersons because it was Bigfoot and the Hendersons, wasn't it? The film, and then Harry and the Hendersons was the show.
It was Harry and the Hendersons in the US. They changed it to Bigfoot and the Hendersons because I think Harry and the Hendersons didn't do as well in the US, and they were trying to mitigate any sort of like, you know, sales by making it like, look, let's just be upfront.
Right.
Let's not call him Harry. Let's not assume people know the film, and let's not be clever with the title. Call it Bigfoot. So in the UK we got Bigfoot and the Hendersons, which is a fucking great film. I watched it.
Me too. It was a few years ago now, but yeah, I was like, oh man, I've got to watch this because it was on a streaming service. I think that's when I was like, I have to watch this, and it wasn't at all like I remember it being. As a kid, I watched it endlessly, and then but it wasn't what I remember it being. But actually, it was great. It was really, really nice. It was like discovering it all over again. It was really cool.
Yeah, that fucking prosthetic head is incredible when he gets when Poirot kicks him in the balls and he goes from a growl to a oh! That was one of the funniest fucking things. Watching we watched it last year. This is one of our Saturday night Mike Geary films, and I fucking couldn't breathe. Like I laugh like him. So like, which Mike Geary pointed out. He says, "Oh, you're like Harry Henson," and I thought you meant I looked like him because I got a big long face and a grey beard. I was like, "Oh, that's a bit mean," but okay, you look like Wilbur, motherfucker, you know. But it turns out he meant that I just laughed like him, and I went, "Oh, I'm sorry."
I can't walk that back, man.
I felt
you laugh like Wilbur.
Yeah, I was like, but you do look like. He does look like, in my mind, Richard Dreyfuss fused with Bob Balaban from Richard Dreyfuss from Jaws, Bob Balaban from Close Encounters, fused into one perfect friend. That's Mike. He's my perfect fusion of two lovely characters.
He is a lovely, lovely fellow. I mean, in fact, we should get him on the channel actually, because Mike very graciously came and was in our short film Type Till You Bleed, or as Michael Bean called it, Type Till You Bleed. If you haven't seen that video, I will send you the link where Michael Bean gave us a shout out. But yeah, he's in that and he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant, and really love Mike. Loved working with him, and hopefully get to work with him again. No pressure, Mark, on that front. But,
yeah. Oh yeah. I can make that happen. You're already down for one film.
Oh, is he in
down for one film
in that?
Excellent. Yeah, he's in that one. Yeah. Which, yeah. There's funnily enough, there is, because I've seen, like, is anyone allowed? Like, I don't know. Why am I asking this? I'm basically.
Yeah.
I've seen the film, right? I've seen the assembly edit. It's wicked. I really loved it. Like we were all quite hungover watching it, but we loved it. And yeah, kind of can't wait to see the finished thing. Like I was throwing music that we've got from some of our other films and saying, if you want this, I can get it to you. But Rich has got the composer covered. I think he was like,
we have, yeah. In fact, I've seen some of the. I've heard a track. I got sent it, and he's done some incredible stuff with the sound waves have in them. If you can see them, they have things like skulls and heads and things like to do with, from the film. He's managed to get them in the sine wave of the actual music, which is insane, but it's really, really cool. Liam, who of the Conversation Hat, who he's been on our channel before, he came in. Yeah, Liam is he's doing the music. He's brilliant. It's coming together really well. And of course, Rob, who is our good friend here at the channel, he's helping us out with some visual effects. In fact, I need to send him some money to do to buy a cockroach. So I need to get on that. I will get that to you, Rob, if you know.
Get the elements.
Yeah, indeed. There's like a pre-rendered one or something. That's anyway. We're gonna get that dude, and I need to sit in a chair and have.
Oh, so he's buying a digital one.
No.
Buying like a real cockroach. I thought, oh, okay, you must be getting. I'm just
no. There's a proper like CGI one that he. Huh?
You might be able to do. You might be able to do that. I think get a cockroach running on surfaces and then just like, because we were going to do it with. We're doing a film that has like a sort of kraken beast that shows up at the end, and we were going to do it with. It wasn't going to be a kraken. It was initially going to be a crocodile. So we looked at getting like National Geographic stock footage or 4K stock footage and cutting a crocodile out of it, and then finding shots and saying, right, well, for this shot to work, we need to get the actor to do this, and then planning it ahead. And then our guy said, I could probably make a bit of a monster if you wanted. And I went, oh, I prefer that. Let's go with a monster. So we got a monster instead. But yeah. But I think you can probably.
No. Rob is incredible, and for those of you, there is a video. I did do a video with him that's up on the channel for you to check out. But I mean, he built Wakanda basically, and a whole Star Wars, he's done it all, man. He's done some big stuff. So he's very, very graciously helping us out, and we're gonna. I've got to sit in the chair and rotate and have my head filmed by Richard. and we need to film. There's another head that needs filming as well, in a similar fashion on a cake stand or something, just to get a 3D shot of it, and then he's going to help us out. So that's really, really exciting. And I've had actually a festival wrote to me today, and I haven't had a chance to respond to them. Is it Schlock? No, you might have heard of them. I will see if I can find. Where is it? Shockfest Film Festival. Have you heard of that?
That rings a bell. Is that a UK one?
Yeah. Yes. My computer's been really slow because I'm streaming on the internet.
I got you covered.
Shockfest. Yeah.
Go. Is 5 City 13-year film running festival? Ooh. I think it's American. They're talking about cash prizes in dollars. $666.
Nice. I do.
See what they did there. Nice. Yeah, horror festivals are fantastic, man. The audiences there are brilliant. There's so much enthusiasm for all kinds of horror films. It's kind of great. Like, I know that like Fright Fest is on your hit list.
Yeah, we'd love to get in there, and a couple of others as well. I mean, I'd love to swing for the fences on it and just try and get into whatever, as high a festival as we can, assuming it's good enough and everything. But yeah.
Everything I've seen so far looks amazing. I think I'm kind of quite excited for like whatever sort of like, hey everyone, let's get together, watch it sort of party there will be.
Yeah, we're really hoping to. Well, we'd love to do a screening of it at the History for Computing. No, what's it? I can't remember the proper title. The Computer History Museum.
Oh, the
because it's I think that would be really cool to do. But what we'll probably end up doing, because obviously like a lot of festivals like you to premiere it at their festival, right? Like you're not supposed to screen it for.
Yeah. Some I think short films get an easier shape than that.
Ugh.
Oh, look at this stuff. This is great.
I am.
Are you on the melted?
Pretty good effects, man. Like
that hand's practical.
Wow.
I think. Yeah, it's really weird. I remember this not looking so great on VHS, and like I've since seeing it in every other iteration, including now, I think it looks fucking great. And I was like, what's wrong with my VHS? If anything, it should have been lower quality and look a lot better. It was really weird.
Yeah, but, maybe sometimes watching stuff in
I don't know.
crappy definition actually works better because you can't see everything. I mean, it depends, I suppose, on the transfer and all that kind of stuff, doesn't it? And how well that's been done. But yeah, you would think video, that shouldn't be an issue, but it's weird.
Hey, look, there's a good chance that I was just a fucking idiot when I was younger, so let's just factor that in. That's probably the most likely.
Yeah, I think. Look, well, hopefully, yeah, we definitely want to have like a proper screening of the film anyway. And it really depends what happens with COVID and everything. But we'd love to get people together for a proper screening in London or somewhere. Hey, look, we'd love to travel with it. We'd love to get it over to the States and get over there with it and all that kind of thing. It's just it's money at the end of the day. But there may be scope for that. You never know.
I have a. Yeah, I think for Fright Fest, which would be August, I mean, I think they might have made their selections by now, see, so I think that might, I'm not entirely sure that one, by the time it gets finished, at the very least, it'll probably, that they would have possibly made their selection. But I don't think Fright Fest are funny about premiere status for short films, so you might be all right. It might be worth throwing it in for next year. Yeah, so it could be pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, look at this thing. It's like Doc Ock.
Do you think actually Fright Fest might be better if we'd already got into a bunch of festivals in the meantime? That might help,
One thing that's really nice with Fright Fest is that there are a lot of other festivals that track it. So with Fright Fest, if you get in there, like we did with Dune Drift, a lot of other festivals invited us or asked to see the film, and then they invited us in then and said, oh, why don't we like this, come and can we screen it? So it was really cool with Dune Drift. The same thing happened with Colin. Those are the only two films I've tried to get into Fright Fest. It's like the guys were really nice though. They sort of said when they saw Night Shooters, they said, oh, you should have sent that to us. And I was like, oh, but it's like an action film. I didn't think you guys would want that. And they were like, no, we'll have anything. like any fun genre film.
Oh, nice.
There's room
That
in
is
their
really
hearts
cool.
for it, basically. So it's kind of
That's really
cool.
cool. Yeah, no, I think their
Yeah, it's
submissions
great.
closed at the end of June. I want to say. I think, which would make sense. I say, but
Uh,
yes, but we probably
okay,
won't
okay,
make that. But which is okay. I mean, look, we thought
yeah.
things would probably knock on a bit. We managed to get the bulk of it shot. We just need to get the special effects shots done. And then it's
Yeah. Look, you make the film for you guys. Make the film for you guys. Once the film's to your standard, that's what you should be aiming for, I think. And sometimes that takes a while. It doesn't. It's not something some people are able to sort of pull it together quite quickly. But those are usually people who've done it a few times. Like this is your first one, so yeah, just get it right so that you're happy.
yeah
I think that's
no.
the best thing.
Yeah,
Fistful
wink
of
on the
shillings. I
exchange.
love it.
Very
See
kindly
that?
sends us £5. Says here's a fistful of shillings to go towards Richard's gooch replacement surgery. Thanks for keeping us entertained. Yeah, sorry Richard, I might have made an in joke for your own back there. It's a mixed metaphor.
Makes me happy.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone who's shot us some shillings this evening. That's really kind of you. I should just check paid pal again. But yeah,
It's kind of yeah,
sorry, go on.
no. I was just waffling with it. It's kind of nice when you it's nice to make a film and you got some lovely people who might have seen it. I'm not going to assume anyone here has, but it's kind of nice to know that I've had some really lovely messages from some people from your channel when they've seen
Which
the
one?
film. Like
June
I've
Drifter?
had some lovely messages on Twitter and stuff. I think it's like no for Fistful of Lead. Yeah. Well, my version of DVD, for some reason they fucked up the release. So my version of the film is the special feature on the DVD. Every streaming version is like a heavily censored version that doesn't make any sense with chunks of the story removed. And I'm like, oh, what? So it's pretty. So if anyone wants to watch Dune Drifter, get in touch with me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram mainly, and I'll just send you a link.
Which version did I see? Because you sent me a version. It must be yours, right?
You saw one. Yeah. Mine has opening
Yeah.
credits to set a tone before we go into a colourful wormhole. Their version doesn't have that. It has like badly unfinished visual effect shots from an earlier edit, and it's fucking just. It's not the right version. It says something like 17 hours earlier, which is like the edit was meant for like a specific streaming service. This censored version is like, okay, fine, as long as that version doesn't go, as long as my version goes here, and here, and through an error, it didn't happen, and it's like that sucks. That sucks. Everyone worked so hard on that film, and I'm really proud of it. And then they pitched it as a sort of Dune cash grab knockoff, and I was like, why? We gave you festival laurels and great review
It's like,
quotes.
who's
Why
that
would you,
even for?
why would
Like,
you-
we've had this
why would
discussion
you do
before, but it's like, who are you pitching that to? You're going to piss off the Dune fans, and you're going to piss off you're going to bypass all the people who would actually quite like to see it. If you were just honest about what the film is, a lot of people would come and see it. It's because it's great. I love Ginger. I've had a really good time with it. I had really good fun watching that film, and it's like it is what it is. But if you try and make it out to look like it's sort of like June, maybe it's June. Who's that gullible as well? Go, yeah, it looks like June, like the film that's not out yet. That looks like that. Yeah, I'll go buy that. What? I mean, who does that? I remember they did that with Twilight. It used to be like Twilight of the Bat People or something at the bottom, like in tiny writing, and it's like in the same font and everything, and it's kind of like, who's that? Who are you? What? I'm not stupid. Like I'm gonna look beyond just that. Like stupid.
They did that with ours, where the word Dune is really big and Drifter is against the sky in really, really small font, and I'm just like, oh, what are you? I don't think you should do that. And this is the thing. I've got to be honest. The fault lies at my hands to some degree, where I just needed like a one syllable word. Now I'm not into Dune, so I don't fucking know shit about Dune. Like I've seen the David Lynch film, and I'm like, wow, that's a film, all right, and I like it. I don't, but I don't. It's not one that as a sci-fi stuck with me. So I didn't really I don't know. I didn't really think about, I didn't even
Right.
know they were making it until like we'd finished the film. Like, and I was just like, oh, okay. Oh shit! I should have probably called it fucking
Yeah.
Doritos Drifter or something. Like, I don't know. It just something else. But like, yeah, it was basically the name of their
Yeah.
squadron. That's it. That was all. And so yeah, so it's one of those like things that no wonder they were so happy
Yeah.
with the fucking title. But but again, it's the film. I think one of the things I quite like is that the people who watch the film sort of see it on its own terms. I mean, it's a 60 grand film. Like lunch costs more than that on the new fucking Dune movie or any of the Star Wars movies. But like, yeah, I'm quite like happy with our little story about a little lone gunner slash pilot running around a desolate
It
world.
looks
It's
amazing
like
as well.
really
There's
good
some
fun.
really great stuff in there. Like all the stuff in space looks amazing. And then yeah, like that location you got, wasn't it? Was it Iceland you went to on that one?
Yeah, again, like it's a Star Trek thing. I'm sorry, but the first two episodes of the last season of Star Trek Discovery were shot in the same location. So when we were watching it, I was just like, whoa. Whoa, that's the glacier, that's the rock, that's the Yoda cave. So it was great to see all those things that we had, and also some of the problems we had on location. I could see they had the same problems. I went, well, that's good to know. Whereas I felt
Oh,
like I'd failed. It's in that show, which is so expensive. I was like, oh, okay, it's good to know that even they had the same problems. Fine. So I was screen grabbing it and then circling things and sending them to Michelle and like our crew and saying, look, they had the same problem.
brilliant.
Uh,
Yeah, no, that was cool, man. That looked really. It looked, it looked desolate and it looked otherworldly and it looked really appropriate. No, I loved that film. I loved Night Shooters as well. I was fortunate enough to be invited to your
kind of.
screening of that at the BFI, and I really loved it. Loved that film. I had fun. It was one of those times because
So
you go and see
that
lots
was
of
so
your
much fun.
mates' films, when you work in the industry and stuff, and sometimes they're great and sometimes they're not so great. You know how it goes. But like that one was just fun. Like I remember coming out, like I really enjoyed that. Like I didn't at any point feel like I was sat there going obligation. Like none of that. Like I was just along for the ride all the way, and I was like, this is brilliant. This is all brilliant. And I don't feel like that way about any of your films, by the way. But I
See,
just
I think at the end, it's so good, man.
you know.
But I like the idea that you might have gone to Richard. Don't worry, Rich, I got the acting covered for this one. Hey, Mark, loved it. Brilliant.
It's just like yes, like woo. Yeah, no, it was
No,
insanely good fun. That film.
that was a really fun screening. I remember being really sort of worried because it went so well with like just audience reaction. Every single thing we were aiming for seemed to be met. And then there was that bit where I got a little cameo as like a goofy guard with my stupid ski mask on, and people recognized me and laughed really hard. And I went, "Oh, none of these laughs are sincere. None of these. They don't mean they're not sincere, but they don't count. This is a willing audience of friends. They're here. This isn't how the film is going to play with other people." And then we went to the first Rain Dance screening, and then there were a couple of friends who were in there, and I thought, okay, well, it was exactly the same. I thought, well, they're just leading the audience response, so that could be my friends. And then the next day at Rain Dance, none of them were no, we didn't know anyone in there, and then another festivals didn't know anyone, and the reaction was always the same, and it was so amazing. It was such a shock because you don't know how these things go because you just get used to watching the film. And one of the best laughs in it, I nearly didn't shoot because we were so behind time. I went, this isn't that important. I'm so glad we did. It's like, yeah, it's you learn a lot with every film you make, right? It's the idea. And I think Night Shooters is where I was like, right, okay, like because to me that's not perfect, but I look at it and go, right. We won't make those mistakes in Dune Drifter. We won't make those mistakes in the one we got coming up. So it's kind of like it's a thing that sort of grows. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I love it. I really love it. I'm never been happier to fail to my own personal standards publicly than when I make the
But
film.
it's the
It's really
same,
weird.
because you just want to know that you swung for the fences. Really, that's the main thing. That you gave it your all, and that's all you can do. And
Yeah,
that's yeah, that's like I say, like I'm kind of. It's easier for an actor to have that, to cop the attitude of you turn up, you do your work, and then you don't have to worry. The rest of it's sort of in the hands of the film gods. But I do think there is a point in which you sort of give it over and you stop, and you're never fully satisfied with it. I don't think. There's a lot of underwater filming here. Have you ever done?
There is, yeah. Was that Alien Resurrection? That was before this.
Yeah, it would
wasn't
have been
Alien Resurrection.
Yeah. Have you done? Have you ever done any underwater filming?
That was there.
Something.
The only underwater filming I think I've ever done is a bit in Colin where we dunk his face into a bath of water. The idea being if you narrow the zombie senses, it sort of chills out. So Alistair just dumped his head underwater, and to get the shot, we gaffer taped my camcorder in a Tupperware box and put it in the thing. And the shot worked fine, but what you hear is on the raw footage, you hear this like,
oh no,
like the water's leaking in, and we didn't see it. No water went in, but it really sounded like that was what was happening. It was like, oh shit. And then the weird thing there was we needed sound for like ambience underwater because I couldn't use that because it was this constant clicking. I thought, okay, how do I do that? I said, well, that's what they do in wildlife documentaries. Just get a condom and stick it on a microphone and stick it underwater. So I did that, and that just doesn't sound like anything. So I was like, oh shit. So I had to do it again, but then sort of swish the water around, and then that sort of, you get little bits that sounded all right, and then I'd edit them together, so it'd be okay. But yeah, that's the closest to underwater filming, sticking a camera in a fucking Tupperware box. Camcorder.
So I've done some, like... Oh, is
Ben Jakes was in that scene,
nice.
Ben Jakes was in that scene. Yeah, he used to come down every...
Bless him. He's a good egg, man. Yeah, no, that I think I did underwater stuff on Kenneth, which was right back at the sort of start of my career, but that was done in a pool. They actually got like just some black drapes and hung them off the deep end in the pool. So because the idea was I jumped off a bridge into a river. And I was like in a suit and stuff, and it was fine. I think the thing that was hard to get over was like you have to get set obviously underwater where you can't really see, so you need like really clear hand signals. And bless her, Jenny, the DP on that, bless her, she's a very slight Scandinavian lady who's brilliant, but she's small, which is handy because she had to get in lots of very tight confines to film a lot of that. And but in doing that, she really struggled to like stay underwater. Like she was far too buoyant. So she had to keep just like go. And it was. But the thing for me was sort of like having to hold your breath for that amount of time. There was another film I did called Welcome to Curiosity in which I had to be drowned in a pool, and I kept saying to the actor who had to hold my head underwater, I was like, "Can you do the thing when you like you ball your hand up on top of the head, but you don't actually grab your hair and then just hold." And he was like, yeah. And then he just didn't.
Yeah.
And he literally grabbed my hair and just held my head underwater. And I'm like, can this stop now, please? Because when you're underwater, you can't hear cut or action or anything. So you're like, can this just stop? Can you just stop, please? And you genuinely feel like you're being drowned, which is awful. That wasn't particularly pleasant. And then, of course, the thing is you have to actually die or act dead and then float, because that's what they want. So they want your... No, so it's like you have to literally hold your breath long enough.
You can't. It's hard to stand still because it's hard to remain still. That's the thing. Because there's too much unfamiliar senses going around for you to be able to control it in the best.
And people always want that in one take. Yeah, I did, but it was hard. But like people always want it in one take as well. It's like, can we not just film this in sections so that I don't have to hold my breath throughout the whole, to be realistically long enough for someone to die. And be dead, that means I have to hold my breath for that long, But anyway, we did it. It's all right. But yeah, the same thing with Kenneth. The Kenneth one was harder in one sense, but I felt better. I had it fairly easy because Stephen, who had to play, there's a goblin in it who's like comes out my ear. But he had lots of makeup on, obviously, and that only lasted. They were like, well, we're going to try and film with it, and hopefully it'll last long enough. Give us enough takes to get what we need from him. And it did just about. But I remember when he came up after like the third take, and it all just was like all these prosthetics were like hanging off his face. Yeah, bless him. He was a trooper. He was a real trooper. Yeah.
I think there's. I mean, I think when you do stuff like that, you just got to always sort of think about safety. I mean, that's the thing. I think I was aware that there's a kind of frantic quality to how we shoot stuff, isn't there? There's it feels like so it's just the energy of the set is like it's very very quick. But when it comes to stuff like fights and stunts, we are very 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 careful. Like we don't mess around at all, because we can't afford it. If someone, even something that could be considered fairly minor, like someone bashing their nose, there's no time to to like we've screwed our schedule up if we do that. So we don't want that. I mean, it's something we're really really very careful about. So yeah, it's it's interesting. I think with water, I wouldn't fuck around at all. You know, water, fire, those things. I just be like, nah, that needs to be safe. I think for some reason people think that because we've all had a fucking bath, we can just shove a fucking actor in the water and say, yeah, you're gonna drown now. And it's like it just doesn't. No. There has to be very clear signals. There's no fucking way I can say this much. The actor would be holding your head under fucking water in a real scenario. It would be something we would work out and say, this is what we're going to do, blah, 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 blah. And this is the signal for stopping. And it would be a very clear fucking signal that someone would be looking at, not the actor involved, so that someone else can come and just go, get your fucking hands off him, he's done. Little things like that. It's, you just cover it. It's I don't know, but that's because I'm a worrier. Like, I worry, like on Fistful of Blood, having those horses running around, I fucking shit myself. I was like, I don't want a horse to break its leg. And they'll have to be shot because I wrote a thing on a fucking piece of paper. Like, I don't really want to have to deal with that. So, I'm just very sort of like, it's good because I think Michelle's safety conscious. And, it helps.
Yeah.
Look at all these bones, man. This is Robertine brilliance, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's a big, huge reveal, isn't it? Because isn't this where it's been dumping? This is essentially its poop. That's its toilet.
Yes.
Yes, it's toilet. Yeah. I mean, that's the headline stuff, isn't it? Oh, he does his own stunts. He does his own fight scenes, and it's like, I mean, look, I'm game, and I enjoy that kind of thing, and I think it's kind of cool to get to do stuff like that. But I do understand the other side of it, which is like, if you're injured, especially on a low budget film, you've just shut down the whole film, and it's kind of like, because you do hear stories about lead actors damaging themselves and having to go off for surgery and stuff like that, and it's like, you've just shut down a massive movie, and it's not their fault. I mean, I'm sure they were trying to do it properly, but it's kind of like, if you keep pushing that, it's like fucking Tom Cruise. It's very suspect that the latest one seems to be taking forever. The latest Mission Impossible seems to still be going on, like over a year later. I mean, I know there's been COVID and stuff, but it does seem like that's taking a long time. But I mean, well, he busted his ankle, didn't he, on the last one? But it's like, dude, one of these days you're just going to fucking explode in a big ball of fire, and that's going to be it. It's like, I don't, it's fine. Obviously, okay, go become a jet pilot in order to do Top Gun, I guess. But it's kind of, I mean, it's cool. It is cool, but it's like the last one, Fallout. It did seem like a stunt reel at times. It was kind of like the camera position and the framing of this shot is compromised because you have to show that it's Tom Cruise doing that. Which I think is.
You know what? I never saw. I saw the Brad Bird one. I saw that was the last one I saw. I think that was
Ghost Protocol. That's probably my favourite one, actually. I think that. Yeah.
I thought it was great, and I don't know why I just didn't get I just haven't watched the others, and for no reason. They're great, and the ones I've seen. And funny enough, I was just needed to watch the restaurant scene, the fish tank scene. Because I was making a friend of mine had bought me one of those sticky things from the 80s. We were grabbing a drink, and she bought me one of these things. You throw it at the window, and it also starts slowly crawling down. Those rubber things you'd get. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to do Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible because you're at the BFI, and you can see the window. I was just trying to chuck in the window. I fucked up every single time. I stuck to my hand, stuck to the floor, and all I wanted to do was, I'm Tom Cruise. You can't betray me in Paranoid. Just throw it at the window. Those aren't the lines. I just failed. But I was like, I gotta watch it, and I watched like 5 minutes. So I realized it was that long. I thought it was a brief scene. And man, it's fucking fantastic. I was like, I need to rewatch the first Mission Impossible film. Maybe I'll watch them all. I'll skip 2. I know I don't like 2, but I think I have to give them all a bit of a watch again because that's kind of 3 was great. 3's the J.J. Abrams one, then the Brad Pitt one, and then Chris McQuarrie did the rest, right?
That's right, yeah. Rogue Nation and Fallout, and then this one. Someone said, who was it? James Atkinson, was it you? Said that they're shooting 2 back to back. which might account for why it's
Oh, is
yeah. I
that what
didn't
they're
realize
doing?
that, but yeah, it kind of makes sense. Freaking Harrison Ford's doing
Uh,
another Indiana
they,
Jones film, isn't he, or something? Oh, that's gonna work.
yeah. Look, I don't have a problem with the last one. Like people hate it. I mean, it's really not that bad. I don't quite get the bile. I get that it's fucking with people's like nostalgia, and that's like the biggest crime ever. So it's apparently as bad as Suburban Sasquatch now, but it really isn't. It's fucking. It's you know it's like it. Like I remember when I came out, I really enjoyed it, but I was just thinking, suddenly Temple of Doom ain't so bad now,
Well, it's
huh?
one of those
And
examples.
we all love that
Yeah,
one.
it's one of those examples of like on paper or whatever. This should make total sense, and I get why when they were making it, they were probably like, yeah, this is an Indiana Jones film. This is giving you exactly what you want, except it's in a modern style and it's got this other. And then, look, I love Harrison Ford in it. There are certain things that I really like about it, but it sort of isn't. It just seems less than the sum of its parts. You know, it's like Die Another Day. Someone made a really compelling case for that being, what should be the best Bond film ever, because you look at something like Spy Who Loved Me and all the reverence that we have for those kind of things where the car turns into a submarine and all that shit, and then the things we hate about Die Another Day
Yeah,
are Invisible Car and all this sort of other stuff that's like, you know these are all things we should love about it. And it's the same thing I think with Crystal
yeah.
Skull. It's like, I'm sure when you made that you were like, this is absolutely what an Indiana Jones film is, but for whatever reason it just does not land for me. But
My 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 thing was always like give it another watch. Now that it's settled and you decided you hate it, give it
yeah,
another watch. And I think most of the people who have done that are like, oh, you know what? Actually, it's not that bad. Um, this is a fucking great
where's
scene.
Steady getting eaten by?
Yeah, the mercy, the mercy, the mercy, not the mercy killer, but the like, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to give you a gun so you can do it
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah, this is like fun writing. I think this is what Stephen Summers does best. Yeah,
Who tries to shoot him? Douchebag.
you little shit. He's like, there we go.
Oh, and that was the last bullet.
Yeah.
It's like
That's
eating him
great.
slowly.
Absolutely got,
Yeah.
absolutely got what you deserved. It's brilliant. Yeah, I think that it's like moments, right? I think I read somewhere that a great movie, a collection of amazing moments
Hmm.
that hold together. And if you just have I think it was Billy Wilder who said, if you can get 7 moments and you can hold a movie around those moments, you've got a great film. And it's kind of like it's like an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Very
No, I hear that,
practical.
and I think that makes
Or maybe it was
that makes
Alexander
sense
McQueen.
though. That does make sense. It's always the films I think as well. Like a lot of times, and I do think the Mission Impossible films fall into this category largely as well, as this sort of sense of over delivering. It's like something like Titanic. I mean, I was watching Titanic the other day. I think that's one as well. So these films that sort of you think you've had the best it's got, and then it gives you another one and another one and another one. Things like even Independence Day did that. It was that kind of just like, oh my god, there's just like
Yeah,
so much going on.
Independence is
Yeah, I
great.
mean, it's just like it's incredible. It's just a roller. It is like a roller coaster ride, and it feels kind of expensive is the wrong word, although it is, but it feels kind of like
It's like there's a craft to the how it's put together, and I know that if this is talk, Red Letter Media talked about it, and now everyone talks about it because it's like whenever they mention anything, everyone starts talking about it like it's the first
yeah.
like they all have known this all along. But there is that sort of iceberg sequence is
Mm.
just fucking perfect. Like everything is perfect in that sequence, and I also really love. I actually sent um, the behind the scenes shot of the miniature ship breaking in half, and then found the scene the sequence and the set sequence to a friend of mine yesterday, and I said to her, I was like, look at this. I said, isn't it amazing that this is what they did, and then the sound and the energy and the editing and the music and the scale and the everything just made made it look totally different. And it's like, I don't know. When I saw stuff like that, behind the scenes stuff like that, and I knew that was what they ended up in the film, my head was always like, so how did that end up like this then? And I think when you start to play with things like sound, when you first get your camcorder or you first get your camera, you try experimenting that stuff. When you start adding sound and music in and the tone and then little sound effects, that's when you really see these things come to life. And I think that's why it's great when you love a film like Star Wars. You see the behind the scenes and you see how clunky and rough and awkward all the sound is because of some fan going off somewhere or someone in a mask trying to say words like that, and you can't understand what they're saying. It's all that stuff, and then you see how it ends up. Then you're able to sort of like kind of your brain can break it down a little bit and really work out like, oh, okay, this is how you do that. So you take that into your own movies. And yeah, it's like on Dune Drifter, we had this thing. We needed a series of monitors, and we were like, okay, we've got to get a bunch of small monitors, synchronize things to play. And then someone said, well, hang on, why don't we just cut out the facade with holes in it, put those holes on top of your television, and then rearrange QuickTime files and play everything on a loop, and it'll just keep going over and over. We can get as many takes as we like. We don't have to reset. And that was how we did all the monitors. So we got these whip pans from little animations that I had to do frame by frame, which took me about a month, to all my mates sitting in front of green screen or in the cockpit in this living room, just like yelling into a GoPro that we then fuzzied up the picture and made it look kind of like a squadron of doomed fighter pilots. It's like so much fun to try to do that shit. And most of it comes from just seeing deleted scenes and going, why does this not sound like the real movie? What was going on there? And that education came in fucking 2000 when I first got a DVD player. I didn't have a clue to do it. I was like 20. I was like 20 by this is at their fingertips right now. From 3. Yeah. They can just make movies on this. It's,
well, my daughter's currently making one right now on a monitor. But it's true though. I mean, I do think though that what that is bringing with it is a big broadening of people's education in film. I think obviously they have access to more information about film as well, but people's kind of education as to what makes a good film, or what makes what cinematic language is. I mean, they're educating themselves at a far higher rate than I think they had before, and so that means that people can't get away with making any old shit. And so, which is a good thing. I think everyone's standards are going up, and but I think also it brings hopefully anyway, it brings an appreciation. What I would like to see is more of I think it's just figuring out the distribution model, but more independent stuff reaching more people is obviously infinitely possible. It's just making it, it's monetizing it. That's the big problem.
There's a big punk phase that's been missed. There's a punk phase of filmmaking where there have been so many feature-length films that are made, and they're just living on YouTube, and no one's drawn attention to them. And I really hope that in about 5-10 years' time, all the young people now who are watching these films in the same way as we watched films on ITV at 1 a.m. Piranha would be on, and that's how I saw Piranha for the first time. Spawn of the Slithers. That's how I saw that for the first time. Because I was up late, I tried to stay awake and I tried not to fall asleep, but I'd always have it recorded just in case. And so all those things, that's how we discovered films. And now there's a whole new thing where people are seeing these films that no one picked up for distribution online, and that's where they're living. And the filmmakers have no clue because it's not the same. It's not the filmmakers aren't being sort of sought out for their work. And I think there's a lot of great movies. So it's like a little invisible punk phase that we've just missed, and it's still there. It's just that no one's championing it at the moment. And as soon as someone does, an Edgar Wright or a Tarantino starts drawing attention to this stuff, people will start watching it. And that's Brad Watson's going to be your Brian Trenchard Smith for the next generation. Wow. So that's what you're going to end up with. Which is great.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think so. I think.
Oh, if I pay rent, I'm happy.
Yeah. I know. I mean, it is heading that way, I think, and I hope so. But it's about where the eyes go. It's about where the audiences go. And I suppose the assumption is anyway that And probably it's true to a large extent that most people want to go to the cinema and see a big spectacle movie, and that's what they're paying their money for. And so, and they're not so interested in, they're interested in escapism, and that's about it. They're there to switch their brain off for a bit. And you've certainly seen that with like more mainstream film making at the moment, where it's much more like an episode in a TV series rather than like standalone films. Film as a thing seems to be changing. I mean, but then that said, there are films that are getting prominence and are sort of working their way onto streaming, like Nomadland, for example. Did you watch that? Yeah, I love that.
Didn't see it, but yeah, I know it.
Yeah. And I thought,
is that well?
Hmm?
And by punk rock, I don't mean like guys with mohawks.
No, I totally get what you mean.
Like that, or I mean like the way that you would just buy a 4-track, buy a guitar and a drum kit, and then you live and record an album.
Yeah,
that sort of homemade sort of quality,
but also a kind of
it that is like it's just,
a counterculture thing as well, though, which is a sort of punk thing of like we're doing something else. We're doing this is, and if you want it, you can have it, and it's there, and you come support it, and it's just figuring that out, because it's very hard to get an ROI on a film where it's going to cost whatever it's going to cost. But like if you're going to spend $30 million, you can't put it on YouTube, So
yeah, exactly. It's it's look at this thing. Look. This is kind of cool. I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh yeah. I was watching that shot from Jurassic Park, the second one, The Lost World, where Richard Schiff is bitten in two by two T-Rexes, and it's fucking astonishingly good shot. And I think they were a bit more bold with their shadows in it. Like those T-Rexes are really hidden in shadow and rain and stuff. I think if there was, and of course they're harder skinned creatures, and they were like, I don't like the idea of like knocking an old visual effect or being an old visual effect. King Kong doesn't look great anymore. You know what I mean? Like the '30s one, but the character is there. If the character's there, who gives a shit whether the effect holds up? I've always sort of felt that, and I quite like this thing. I think it's
for sure. I mean, it's the sort of the lighting and like you say, the shadows don't quite work, and also when you've got something with texture like a T-Rex, it allows you to. There's just more to see. I think the biggest sort of culprits of '90s bad CGI are the ones where it's a kind of glossy, slick, smooth monster. The more sort of smooth surfaces something had on it, the worse it looked, kind of thing. And I'm sure it's because of lighting and stuff.
Yeah. Is that this thing that the monster that we're creating? Actually, interestingly, my visual effects are one of his specialities. Are the sort of like soft texture, and his stuff always looks amazing. I'm like, oh wow, and I'm almost convinced, but let's maybe not. Let's not be too clever. Let's give it like a crab,
because
sort of.
It's only in the last sort of 7 years or so that they've figured out sort of cloth, because that used to be one of the biggest. Like the Matrix did it with sort of rubbery Neo and Agent Smith, and then like Titanic has that shot. That shot that they always talk about, the big sweeping aerial shot of the ship and stuff, and the guy comes walking out of the bridge, and he's a bit like birdie food. He like flails around,
which is crazy with this motion capture. It's bad. I think they motion captured that. No, they didn't. They keyframe animated a reference. Yeah, so
but it's funny.
Sorry,
because he has to replicate that walk because obviously it cuts to inside the bridge when he's leaving the bridge, I think, and he's like, "I'll just do my yeoman's walk," or whatever. Like, he walks out like that, and his rubbery ass legs. But I think they really struggled for a long time. But nowadays, you've got like CGI capes and stuff that you just can't tell. You wouldn't know. Like Batman's cape isn't really there.
Yeah. There was one in, I think it was Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I think I remember like there was a bit where they're walking through like a massive hangar, and there's all these fucking ships in the background. And I remember thinking, oh, hang on, when did they nail this? That looks amazing. That can't be there. And I'm sure there are other films that I just missed but like normally you could get you could see what they were doing, right? You go, yes, and the thing that I remember, and it might have been the version I was watching at the time, because it might have been a low res version I was watching at the time, wherever I would have got that from, and I think it was one of those things where I just went, that's like that looks pretty amazing, and the only reason my attention's drawn to it is that I know I know they wouldn't have built that. I know that the way the camera's moving, that's not a forced perspective miniature or anything. I said so that's like a green room.
Well, that's it. I mean, the irony now is, of course, in scenarios like that, the reason why you know it's fake is because, as you say, the camera and everything is doing exactly what it would do if that thing were real, but that thing cannot be real. So therefore, they didn't build giant flying aircraft carriers or whatever. So yeah. That's the sort of weird thing, and we've just come to expect it as well. Like we've come to expect that's what's going on.
And it's a type of filmmaking I'm definitely not interested in, though. It's like the fact that they can't afford to get this actor down on the same day as this actor, so they get the shot and then you're basically getting jigsaw piece puzzles of it, and then it's put together later on. There's something about that like. I'm sure one or two shots like that would be really satisfying to have in a thing, but to do a whole movie that way, I'd just fucking I think I'd hate it.
Yeah,
I'd be who's making this movie? I guess I'm deciding what a camera should do, but then there's no camera. Someone else is doing.
Well, that is the thing as well with
I don't know.
Because wasn't it like things like the Snyder Cut and all that stuff was only possible because, as you say, like they're filmed against green screen. And I think the prequels did this as well, where it's like they're filmed against all this shit, so they can just make whatever in post, and you're essentially it's almost like filming like the talking clock or whatever. You're just filming different options for them to sort of figure out when they, because who was it he said about the that final funeral shot in Endgame where the camera kind of pans across the whole, all the Avengers there and stuff, and it's like, I bet they weren't all there. I bet like half of them just weren't there, and because they were like, because think about it, you've got to get Samuel L. Jackson, you've got to get Chris Evans, you've got to get all these megastar people.
Like you only say
exactly. And he probably charged for it anyway. So it's kind of like how on earth, like, and that's ridiculous when you think about it, because it looks like such a they'd all show up for that, right? And it's like
look at the budget of the film. If a film on that budget can't afford to get everyone in the same room, then Steven Soderbergh's the only guy who can. Like, he's the only guy that can get massive names in a room for money because they like him.
I get that there are.
Okay.
That's a great shot. That's a great miniature shot of the thing blowing up. That's really cool. Yeah, that's less cool, but whatever.
As an endangered species, you just blew that up. How many of them are there in the water? You fucking
Greenpeace.
Dick.
And they just
disgraceful. It's like the end of what's that film with Blake Lively, and she fucking kills a great white shark. It's like, those are the fucking endangered list. What the fuck? Like, that film should
The
have
Shallows, isn't it? The Shallows.
And they're like, she's like, I killed the shark. And it's like, we got to go to jail because they're endangered. You should have just got out of the water. But it was trying to kill me. Should have just got out of the water. Don't kill the fucking endangered species. I don't give a fuck.
She didn't. Well, technically, it killed itself because it crashed into the bottom of the sea or whatever it did, didn't it? Like,
it was quite a wily.
Yeah, it was a shame because I thought that film up until that point was doing quite a good job, but then the payoff wasn't.
Do you know what? I didn't care for it. I watched it, and as I was watching, I was thinking, I guarantee that there's going to be some interview somewhere with the director saying, and I don't know why, for some reason I made him French. So, and I was like, it's not the monster, she is in its environment. And I found that interview. I was like, well, it wouldn't really want to eat her if there was a tasty whale carcass nearby. It's not good to be in the water because you get a bunch of sharks that are basically there to feed, and you're going to be an easy meal on its way to the fucking whale carcass. But seeing as there's only one and it's eaten, though, you're kind of all right. Just get out. Don't stand a fucking whale. That ain't an island. That's probably a really dumb place to go. But it's a movie, I suppose. Look, the failed oceanographer in me is a little bit
quite
could have done
it was
better.
quite sort of
Come
paper
on.
thin with its allegory, wasn't it? Because I can't remember what happened at the start, but she turns up on the beach, and the beach is clearly, the water line is like crossing over into. I can't remember. Like it was basically really obvious that it was a kind of, it's obviously a metaphor for her life and needing to face her demons and all that kind of shit. And,
Yeah. That's okay, fine. But like I think that's whereas I like a film like The Reef more, which still perpetuates kind of like this whole like sharks as monsters kind of thing, but it does play it as an animal, just investigating and then seeing an opportunity and then eating someone. I was like, all right, fine. It's horrible, but I think it's done in a way that I think I quite enjoyed, if that makes any sense. Yeah, but I can't say. Okay, it's not fair to say I didn't care for it. I've seen it a few times. Like I leave it on.
Yeah, I think
so.
That is cool.
There you go. What a cool
because like, what the hell is that? Is that Kong Island? Is that Skull Island or whatever? Could be.
It always had that vibe for me, and I also love the volcano over there. Chasing, no doubt, the islands to the monsters to the shore where they're going to be. So.
No, it's cool. It's compelled me to watch it again. Actually, that properly, because without me waffling as well. But I think it's got it's visually it's not that bad. Like that, yeah, there are a few ropey shots, but
it's a good fun movie. Yeah, I think that I really like about this is it's such a fun, like it's a fun romp, and it's a very easy watch, I think, and that's kind of you do sort of miss these sort of things. I think this would have been made for about 30 million maybe at the time. You think maybe 40?
Find out.
I can never tell because it changes in time. So Aliens was 17 million, I think, wasn't it, or something like that? That was.
I think it was definitely sub 20. Yeah, I think it was actually really low. Yeah, which you would never think, would you? You'd be like, "There's no way that is a cheap film."
No.
Until you see the behind the scenes stuff with the Queen and it's like bin bags. The little
test. I think this will work. Build this. Someone just someone just said Leviathan.
Really?
Leviathan's a great movie. Oh, look at that! Interesting.
Really? What this is?
Joe Dante. Yeah. That little end shot apparently was meant to be a setup for Joe Dante's Godzilla film.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Oh God, a Joe Dante 45 million.
45 mil.
Your guys are amazing.
Yeah,
okay, everyone's on that straight away.
Spot on. Yeah, no, yes, dude. I mean, that's what I want to see. Though I want to see more I mean, I suppose back in '98, a $45 million movie is potentially not.
Pretty. Yeah, that's not cheap. No, that's pretty. Like Jurassic Park was 70 million. In '93, right? 92 when they were making it. So that's it took less than 20 million at the box office. Oof. Shit. Well, at least Stephen Sommers got the Mummy after it. He made up for that. I think all of his films did quite well then. I think he had a good streak, didn't he?
I think we're having trouble with the stream at the moment. What is going on? My computer's just running really slow. Sorry guys, if you're
at least
that's true. Yeah,
I guess.
I don't know if they can still see us or not. I'm getting spinny wheels and stuff on here, but YouTube is not receiving enough video. For God's sake, stream status poor. Why? Nothing's changed. I don't understand. Stream is healthy. Weird. Okay, sorry. Well, if this has dropped out, I don't know. Is the chat's still going? I don't know, guys. If you
there's a bit of a delay.
Well, guys, if we're spinning, let us know. We're sorry about that. Hopefully it'll come back. Don't know, because I don't know what to do. There's nothing I can do about that. So, yeah. I don't even know if we're still live, because You can still see us. It's fine, chaps.
It's fine, chaps. Was watching the film
Okay,
anyway.
right, fair enough. Yeah,
That could have been in response to us waffling through.
yeah, they could have just turned us down and the film up. I wouldn't blame you. No, man. I don't know if it's nostalgia talking or not, but I do think that I think people are kind of crying out for this stuff. It's just hard to know how you would make something that would reach people. Like I think that's the biggest thing for me now. Is it's kind of like what is the route to market? Because even though there's been this huge democratization of media, how do you really get eyes on stuff? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because I was looking at the success of because I know Rob Savage and I know Lee Cronin, and I think what they've always been making great films. Rob's been making great films for 10 years, but when he made Host, that landed. And it was because of the platform. Shudder was a platform where horror people were interested in and interested in seeing good horror content. Rob just made another one, and so it's as good as his other short films or his other films, and so it was a good platform for him, and so that was the thing that took him off, sent him off. Same thing with Lee Cronin. It was his first feature, but his short films have always been fantastic, and that screened at Sundance because it was through the Irish Film Board. He got some finance, so Sundance looked at it in that respect, and Sam Raimi caught it and was like, oh, let's have a chat. And so it's one of those things where I think that if the platform is good, it doesn't happen in the UK. You have to have something that an American will pick you up for, because the UK doesn't give a shit. Like, there's no festival here that you could screen at and people will go, ooh, let's elevate this person. Maybe the London Film Festival, but you know what? All those films are either BFI funded or studio funded, or those films. You're not going to get a small film there. No, that's not fair to say. You do get small films there, but small films of a very certain type. You're not going to get, like, Host isn't. You're not going to, that's not where you're going to see Lee Cronin's film for the first time. There's a little bit more of a snobbier selection process, I think, with that one. But it's. I think it's a good platform. That's what you need to find, a good platform to do it. And I don't know what that is. Shudder seems to be a good one in that it worked for Rob. But that worked for Rob. That might not necessarily work for anyone else. Everyone's going to be trying now because it worked for Rob. But it's going to, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everyone else.
I mean, that's it, isn't it? And there's always that scramble to recreate what someone's just done, and it's kind of like, that's been done now. You need to find the next thing. But I mean, it's so hard to know. It seems like now that we're still clinging on to this thing of, like, you need a celebrity to either endorse you or be in your thing or to tell someone. There just has to be some sort of person who's already got eyes on to get eyes on stuff. But then that's getting, the waters around that are getting muddier as well, because you can become a celebrity by saying, showing your bum on Instadoc or whatever it's called, and blah blah. You can dance with your bum out on TikTok and get 1 million followers, but then it's kind of like, who are those people? Is it really of value? Are they really creating value? And are people really going to stick around? I mean, you see a lot of that. There's a lot of sort of rising and falling of internet celebrities, and I think it's I don't know what the answer is.
It's an odd thing, yeah. Hey man, I just clocked someone on the chat there saying they'll add me on Twitter. That's my DMs are open on Twitter, so if anyone asking for the Doom Drifter link, my DMs are open there and on Instagram. So I'll spot you if you ask. I don't think I'm that popular.
Would you be able to send? How can people watch, like, Dune Drifter and stuff? Like, what's the legit way?
It's not out there in any version. Yeah, it's not out there in any version. That the closest thing is it's on DVD, and my version is of the special features. My cut is the special features. However you do that by accident, go figure. But apparently that was not a deliberate thing on their part. It was an accident. But yeah, but that's the closest thing to a legitimate way. But the truth is, it doesn't make a difference. I'd just rather people see the version of the movie we worked our balls off over, and there's no issue sending a high
Yeah.
res Vimeo link. Yeah. Oh, I also send a behind the scenes as well because we had a nice little behind the scenes made that sort of goes into how we did a lot of it, which is kind of fun because it's me awkwardly talking through. Oh well, we kind of did this, and I want to do a space battle, and we had a projector, and we actually shot it all in this room. Some of the spaceship is over there. I haven't had the heart to throw out the panel and the fighter pilot seats. So I'll just hang on to them. I'm gonna have to get rid of them at some
Fair
point.
enough.
I should sell the seats on eBay or something because they cost a lot. So I think we can sell them for a lot. But I'm like, how the fuck would I pack those? I've got a box of coffee I haven't sent to my mum in Swansea. How am I going to pack some fighter pilot seats? I don't know how to do that.
Call UPS.
Is that a brown paper bag sort of type thing?
Stephen Allen had a question that he threw out. It seems like the connection is better again now. So sorry about that, guys. I think we were jerky and jumping around, but he tagged us in a question. He says, "Hey Mark, as a director, do you often see Duncan as a certain kind of character whenever you write a script? Like, is there a point where you go, this feels like Duncan?" Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know how often I do that with many actors. Funny enough, I think I knew did we talk about Fistful of Lead before? Because that's the main one we've done, isn't it? And actually, with the film that we've been working on recently, it's written with you in mind because that was that was how we got there. So it was I think the guys that started writing it.
Fistful of Lead.
To a degree. No, sorry. With Fistful of Lead, I think we'd written it, and I think you were potentially down for a different character.
I was going to say, it was one of the. I think it was Dallas or Casey, wasn't it? That was the. Because you had me read for both, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, but I swapped you around because I thought you'd be more interesting in this other role, and so so I think I swapped them around. And I think there were a lot of factors in it. I just knew I wanted you in it, and I don't know if it was the way we shot it, but because I think you were there when we were shooting Tom's scenes, and it was your day off. Maybe it's that Tom couldn't do the other part, and so it was me wanting to work with both you guys, and so we just sort of accommodated the schedule to fit, which we've done before. It's like we want these people in the film because, for us, it makes us like we know that you're good. We know that you're going to be, on a grueling schedule. We know that you're going to bring something really interesting. Because the way I like to work is I'll often not necessarily tell you how I think the scene should be played. I want to see your interpretation. So we'll roll on a sort of rehearsal or a loose take, and I'll get a good measure of what you want to bring to that moment or that scene. So yeah, I think we've got to have good people, because if you're shooting like that on a tight schedule, you've got to have good people, because what it allows is it allows you the space to play as an actor, which is always handy, and at the same time it's not, it doesn't slow us down. And so it's just like picking good actors. And I think that like in the case of the new film, it has been written, I think halfway through the writing process or after one draft, we were like, you'd be great for it. So we went back and then changed things to what we think, like, the character became a lot cooler.
But you've been far too kind to me on this. This is not. No, I mean,
one character got a lot more sillier, and yours got a lot cooler. So we have a nice dynamic now to play off. But that comes from knowing that you could do that stuff, and the action.
It's really
great.
Honestly, it's so sweet of you to say that, and like this is what most actors dream of, really, isn't it? Is to be considered for roles that are being written and thought of in that process and asked to do things. It's been very, very lucky, and the scripts that I've had from that I've read through, I've been reading through a bunch of times. Like, it's great bedtime reading, actually, and I'm really, really getting kind of to grips with.
Have you had a script for this new one? I don't think we're allowed to say what it's called yet.
Yeah, no.
We haven't got a title.
Yeah. Michelle said I've got two. I've got two of them. Because I don't know what I'm allowed to say, so I don't. But I have two scripts. There's a reason for that. yeah, but I've read both of them through a few times, and I really enjoy it. And it's
That's more.
you what?
It's more times than I've read them. It's more times
I'm
than
going
I've
for the
read.
Anthony Hopkins. I told you, since it's been delayed a bunch of times. I'm like going for Anthony Hopkins. I'm going to go for 250 times, and there's more than one script, so that's going to be interesting. But it's really good fun, and I've also been a similar thing has happened for me on a horror series that is again really really lovely and sweet. That someone's asked me to play a younger version of Kane Cranham in an episode for that, and again the dialogue is just fucking cool. Like it's the same thing with yours. I'm like, oh, I love this because I'm going like, this is cool. This is so. These moments are brilliant, and I get to play them. And especially in your one, well, in both of them, it's the lead role, but like, it's like you just get to do all these really cool things all the time, and it's like that is it's such a rare thing, and it's I hugely grateful for that. So
for me, it's like. Oh well, no, like it's you're genuinely excellent at it, and that's what we it makes our life easier. So get good people, it makes life easier. But there's the thing I think with again putting you in a room with Caitlin and Emily and James and Jordan, like that's the thing for me. That's the magic. I'm like, for me, it's like when worlds collide. Because like I know you totally different, isolated from those guys, and I'm the way I know James is totally different from the rest of you guys, and of course, Emily and Jordan being married and Caitlin being a bridesmaid at their wedding, they have a dynamic that they're able to really work something together that's really sweet, that is different to you guys and what you guys bring to it. So I kind of love mashing all that stuff up, and I know it's like a low budget film, but like the work ethos is the same as if it like that wouldn't change if we had more money. That's still the same thing we do. That's still choose my shots based on maximum emotional impact and storytelling impact. Like nothing would really change. It's we'd have longer to shoot it. That's all. So there might be a little bit, that we might have more sort of steady cams and tracks and cranes, and we'll have a set that we could take the walls off and get more than shooting in an actual mine where there was no room, and every fucking one of us bashed our head on that one bit of wood.
Because there was no light either, was it?
I hit my head on that bit of wood once so hard that dust came off and went in my eye. And I couldn't see then either, and then I walked into it again. I was like,
because you had to really stoop down to get. Because bearing in mind this mine, it wasn't even like now it's just there preserved as like part of a museum to scare kids or whatever. But you had to go into and it wasn't even in the mine, was it? Because the mine was way down like on the other side, but you still had to go down into this thing, and it was like, with the only light in it was the lights you had, right? I think because there wasn't any other light, so we had to get phones out and try and find our way down this like bloody corridor. And if you turned around at any point or decided not to go any direction other than straight, you'd always bash your head on something, and it was all like dank and cold. But that's that's what it should be like. I mean, because it's easy for me to say that in retrospect, but actually I remember thinking there were times on that when I'd run back up to the cafeteria which was our sort of green room, and just get huddle around a heater and be like and fiddle with my gun and try and warm up. And I would dread sort of being called back to sex. I was like, no, it's cold, I'm miserable. But then you get down there and
we all had a fucking cold.
Yeah.
We had a cold, if you remember. Sam had a cold. He gave that to you, and then I got it on the last few days. And I think like the Canadians were somehow all right. They survived. But I remember one night, Caitlin was like, "Oh, I'm doing a theatre play. Will you help me with the trailer?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." And as I was doing it, I was like, "I can't fucking breathe. I can't breathe. I can't move." And I didn't want Caitlin to know, because I was kind of like, "Oh, look, she's doing this one for fuck all money. She's come all the way across the Atlantic for it. I think I can do her a goddamn trailer for her play. I'm going to do this." And I don't think she noticed that I was dying. I was just like, because every day I wake up and think, "Oh, I feel great. I feel all right. I'm better now." I wasn't. It was just the adrenaline carrying me at the end of every day.
I did that. No, but I did that as well. Like at the end of pretty much every shoot, especially ones like that where it's freezing cold and all the usual stuff. It's like you get you just know it's coming, and I felt it coming at the end of that, and I knew I'm going to get home and I'm going to wake up the next morning and feel like shit, and I did. I was like utterly wiped out for about a week, but you just do it. Scott said that to me when I did Accident Man. It was the last day of shooting, and we were getting changed in a wardrobe trailer together. And I was just asking him, I was like, how's it been? He goes, mate, I'm sick as a dog. But he goes, I always get sick at the end of these because it's so physical for him. Like, he's doing all the fight scenes, all the, it's great. The dude is in insane shape for that. And he was just like, I always get ill. He goes, I always get ill. I just have to power through it to the end. He goes, I know I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and just be utterly decimated, but I'll just get through it and then it's done. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much.
Well, if you remember, like, you were getting in shape for something as well. So you were on a proper low carb diet. You were in really good shape. Yeah, you didn't have much meat on your bones. You were all lean, and I was just like, so yeah, that's gonna take its toll when you're lying in some real fucking mud that we've been squishing into a soup, shooting in the mine for 5 days.
There were so many like those coins as well, that smashed into the mud and stuff. It was. It was great though. It was, but it was. Dude, how often do you get to play a cowboy? How often do you get to play anything? I mean, that's the thing. I think as I've gotten older as well, I've got far less entitled, or I like to think I am. So whenever I'm on anything, I go, no, this is what you want. You can't get there and complain, like just and enjoy it. And there's so much to, it's so much fun. The discomfort is temporary. Yeah, man.
It's a lot to love, man.
It's wicked.
It's saying now, like in this film we got coming up, we've got a 6-week schedule, and seeing as what was Fistful of Lead, that was like 14 days,
well, I was on it for
a
couple of weeks because I was going to go home, wasn't I think, in the middle of it, and then it was just like, nah, because it's just snow everywhere, there's no point. I hung around and watched.
I think it was about 4 days.
Yeah.
And then because Night Shooters was longer, I think that was 18 days, 17 days, and then we had 3 days of pickups later on that we'd scheduled in at the start. So there were things I'd saved, but I didn't want to do pickups on Fistful of Lead, so it was like we did it all in 40 days. It's like, Jesus. No, that's right, it was 14 days, and we had 2 days then later in the western town because it was flooded. So
that's right.
Till a lot later. Yeah. God, that was so much fun. I love that western town. Like, I look at that stuff.
Lerdo.
That looks alright. It's the one from Red Wolf.
No, it was wicked. It's so much production value as well from that. It was such a great, and it was fun. I mean, because we were there then in that sort of, it was boiling hot, wasn't it? And it was supposed to, we had to put fake snow around because we'd been shooting the earlier stuff in the forest, and it was like snow everywhere because of the beast from the east. So we had to kind of dress it.
We put a couple of bits on barrels and stuff, but you don't really see it. So I think I said to Chris, Chris went, I got a plan for you, because this really sounds like right. He goes, I got a plan. Listen to this, and then he threw in a line like, "Wrap up warm, it's gonna get cold." And I went, that gets us out of a hole, buddy. Let's fucking run with it.
That was cool. And then we shot.
But it's nice because we were able to, because we shot it carefully where we didn't show the ground a lot. So even though it was snowing the whole time, we only showed the ground in certain points, so it was always patchy. So do you remember that time? You weren't in this shot, but we had to do something where, like, the snow had blown in from the side, and the trees were just from top to bottom covered in snow, and we were like, well, that causes a problem. But I went, well, hang on, if the camera comes on this end, it's almost like front projection where you can't see the snow on the back of the trees now. So if we do that and don't film the ground, it won't look like it's covered in snow. So there's one scene that doesn't look like it's been snowing at all, but it's fucking, like, it's snow everywhere. We just found that angle because the wind blew it in because it was so intense. But mate, that was
so really great. That was really great, and it's a great film. I do think it's really it's really great. I would love for that to find an audience as well.
It's one of those things, right? Again, it's this similar sort of distributor thing where they're pushing the different type of film and what it is and the stuff, and it's promising a film of a totally different budget. But I kind of thought I'd screwed up on it. I thought, I've messed up on this. And then I think I told you this. I was asked to do a talk with BFI, and they wanted to focus specifically on the Western. And I was like, oh man, the people are going to rip me to pieces. And mate, it played so wonderfully. Like, every single beat landed. the questions from the kids were like, how do you do that for this budget? And we were like, oh, okay, well, we think I see this, and this is what I worry about. And they were like, nope. And it was so amazing, and it was really validating. It's one of those things that, like, oh, because again, it was one of the only films I've made that I didn't see with an audience of friends. So I didn't know how those moments played out, and I've only seen them in sort of like isolated pockets, and people telling me they saw it and what they liked, and yeah. So it was a tough one. I didn't know, like, and my assumption was that I'd let the film down in a weird way, but I think, yeah. But having seen the pattern of how the films are released and the reception of the films by the same people who are getting sort of tricked into buying them, it's kind of like, oh, okay, you know what? It's less the film and more the marketing push angle, and I know every film should speak for itself, and there's a good chance that the films might all be terrible, but I do think that the pattern is so consistent, considering how different our films are to the rest of the output. I think that BFI screening did turn me around on it, but even though I've always loved it, I really, really enjoyed the film. It's like, it's when you look at it, you go, in an audience like that, like a potentially hostile audience, they like, young people don't know shit, they don't give a fuck, but they were like, they were just like so warm to it, and I was just like really like, like, oh, okay. It just, you start looking at your things. We work in the creative industry. Like, one of the reasons that we grow as artists is that we're riddled with self-doubt, and so I'm of the ilk to, unfortunately, think I screw a thing up. So, but again, I always feel it's my fault. So, because, I'm the one that's making all the choices. But no, so that's one of the best experiences I think I've had with a film. And even though they were just a few isolated clips, it was so great to see that. And, yeah, like, I know I sort of told you about it, but it's a thing that, like, it was lovely for me. And I was like, oh wow, and it was so great to hear, like, when you kick, when the shootout's going on, and you fucking kick Jordan in the knee, and he shoots you in the arm. You kicked him in the knee. Everyone went, ah, ooh! It's all like, there's a lovely cheer, and then a gasp as you got shot in the arm.
That's cool, man. No, that's something, because you sent me that last night, that little sequence as well, and I was like, oh yeah, this was so. And like Caitlin's sort of, when Emily's dying, spoilers, it's heartbreaking, her kind of reaction. I think she's amazing in that stuff. But I've learned, I think, hopefully in my maturity, to kind of like, to just give it up, I think, and not and or at least try and have the awareness of when I'm putting myself in that scenario. When I had this, when Erica came out, it got a ton of reviews. And it keeps getting waves of reviews because it keeps getting released on different platforms. Like, it's just gone out on Steam, and I don't read them anymore. But I made that stupid fatal mistake because I really thought I had I had something riding on it, and I really wanted it to be quite a big deal. And I think in certain circles it has been. But I was kind of like, but please be good reviews. Please be good reviews. Please don't, like, at least don't say the actor what played the cop was shit or something. And I think one of them, like, some guy, I think I caught a couple where it was like on YouTube or something, someone reviewed it and was like, who the fuck is this guy? I bet he's one of the developers who just put himself in the film or put himself in it or whatever. And people, and then you read all this, but then there could be a million and one others out there that say you were brilliant, and you could, and there are, and I start, you start going through mentally, you start going, oh my god, you get that imposter syndrome thing, you start going, I am shit. All the self doubt was true, it was all right, but then you go, no, I'm making that reality. It's not true. It's not actually objectively true. It's just it's me. That's my filter that's doing that, and that's where I've kind of tried to just. It's easy to be philosophical about it, but in the moment it's harder. But I really am trying to work on that and really shut out that noise, because that's all it is. It's not true. It's you trying to make sense of the fact that the world just saw you do a thing, and it cannot get any easier. I mean, the people who do mega budget movies and millions of people go and see it, I don't know how they must literally just have to not log on to the internet or have any clue about how it's going down. I mean, and it's true, like they all say don't read your reviews, and they're right, because if you believe the bad ones, you've got to believe the good ones too, and how do you make sense of any of it? It's just...
Yeah, mate. I'm the sort of guy who looks at a glowing 5-star review of some of my stuff, and I'm like, well, no, they got that wrong, and it's like that infuriates me, and it's kind of like, no, your 5 stars mean nothing. You didn't fucking understand it. Like, just stay away from them. Like, yeah, because I don't consider nothing. It's nice when someone engages and says they saw it and they want to talk about it. That's fantastic. And then you can have I've had so many conversations with complete strangers who, particularly with Doom Drifter, funnily enough, like saying, I didn't expect this. I was like, oh, how did you see it? And they're like, oh, I saw it here. And I'm like, here's the correct version, and here's a 30-minute behind the scenes. So I was like, sorry, you watched the wrong version, but thank you. I'm glad at least there was enough in there for it to work. But it's not the it's kind of nice to have those engaged conversations. It's quite amazing to me. So it's and I think that's the thing. I say I just put out for reviews. I'm like, that's the thing. I think it's I don't read them. I think I read the Doom Drifter ones. Because when a screen at Fright Fest, I was drunk and confidently drunk. I thought I had a sense of humor about it, and I read them, and they were really nice. But I can't retain positive memories. I've realized that's a thing. I can only retain the bad ones. So I woke up the next day going, oh, I only remember the negative parts of anything I'd read, but I don't remember where I read them. They were just in there. I was like, oh, shit. It's not working. It's not that good. And then a friend of mine had collated a load of review quotes from Kim Newman and all those guys. And he sent them to me and I just went, whoa. And he went, it's reviewed so strongly. And I was like, but I read them and they weren't, oh yeah, that's your condition. And then I went to correct. I think someone's name wasn't on IMDb and I was like, yeah, I can do that. And when I went there, because it played at a few film festivals, the ratings was open and it was fucking like 8.9 and stuff. And I was like, what? Like, it blew me away. Then, of course, they released it. Tricked a bunch of Middle American Trump voters, and it just fucking plummeted like the rest of them. And I think, as I was all wrestling with that nightmare, it was pointed out to me and said, well, look, no, this is the result of a missell, poorly marketed, missold film. Remember what it was before that, when people who were watching it, who weren't tricked. They were seeing the film they expected to see, and they were surprised. So it's like, okay, I suppose. But you know what? There's still something up there. There's always something that makes you go, well, maybe. Well, there's always room for them to write. But
that's the problem, I think, because it sort of burrows into your. It starts to widen the chasm in your kind of, or the cracks in your self-confidence, and it is difficult. I get it on everything I do. I got it on Fistful of Lead. I get it on everything I do. I get to the halfway point, even if it's just one day on something. I'll get to lunchtime, and something will happen where I'll feel like, oh my god, they all think I'm shit. Oh my god, and I start to doubt, and it starts to creep in, and without me doing anything, and it's like I just have to let's just grasp the nettle and get on with it. Rob Myers says, I'm just going to address a few things in the chat, and then I've got one more question for you, and then I think we'll wrap up if that's cool. Rob Myers says,
I was going to say though, just before you go on to that one, as someone who's worked with you, never has it come up. I can't see it coming up. There's a reason we're giving you the lead in a film without any audition. You know what I mean? Don't worry about it. At least with us, but I don't think you should worry about it at all, because I know that we're not getting some special version of Duncan. We're getting the man who works. You're the same on everything, buddy, in terms of work ethic, and that's great. So don't worry about it. I know that. Right?
I'll never have that problem again.
That's all it took.
No, I mean, in a way, it's weird because obviously you don't want to indulge in it, but you also don't want it to go away entirely, because then you couldn't try. This is the human condition.
We need it.
Absolutely.
We need it,
That's
Sorry,
all good. No. Rob Myers says, if someone doesn't step up and tell you when you're doing good, it's easy to doubt yourself. Absolutely, mate. And you're in this crazy industry as well, so God bless you. Sam Duxbury says, did you read my Patreon messages? Oh, the chat keeps jumping. Sorry. Did I? About Erica? No, I don't think. When did you send them? I will look in. I will have a look in. And then I had a question for you from Stephen. It goes back a wee way. Where are we? Oh, there he is. Stephen Allen asked, need to ask Mark another question. What franchise would he like to get involved in? He gets a good producer who gives him room to breathe, and where would you take it? That's quite an open question, but do you have an answer?
God, I don't know. I think I would have a really good time making a
Nice.
Ninja Turtles movie. Um, and I also think I'd have a really good time making a
Yeah,
Critters
nice.
movie.
That's cool. I was not expecting that.
And although in this, I think I'd have a blast making a
Yeah.
Gremlins movie, and a never-ending story.
Nice.
And I know this sounds really weird. These are all films that don't need remakes or anything, but it's not about remakes. It's just about me selfishly wanting to play with Gremlins and wanting to play with Falcor, and that me selfishly wanted to play. I'd probably end up doing like a shot-by-shot remake. And people are like, why bother? It's like, because I wanted to play. That's it. That would be my
Yeah.
reason. So it's not a good reason to make any of them really. But yeah, no, they would be fun. But ultimately, the pressure would just drive you mad, wouldn't it? If I was going to make a Star Wars movie, I'd want to do one about like the Max Rebo band. It'd be like the Blues Brothers, where after Jabba's barge explodes, like they got to get back together because the Emperor's gonna have a big party on the Death Star after they crush the rebels. But like no one would let me make that stupid fucking idea. So.
Mate, I think that James Gunn is itching to steal that idea from you right now. That is exactly the kind of film I would think they would make now. I mean, I think that why not? I mean, isn't that what Star Wars is about anyway? Is having those kind of crazy character, spin-offs. I don't know.
There'd be no human characters in it, wouldn't they? Like they got a couple of dancers in the special edition. I'd totally have that stupid fuzzy thing that no one likes. I'd totally have that in there. You'd be fun. You'd be like the Rocket Raccoon character. No one liked him in the special edition, but we'll turn him around. We'll give him something to do.
Sounds good, man.
Like I'll ever get a chance to make. This is why I'll never get to pitch a Star Wars movie. It's like, what do you want to make? I'm like, oh fuck, let's have them do the Bothan stealing the plans thing. That worked for Rogue One, right? That made a lot of money. It's the Bothan version. It's like we did that story already. It's fine. Don't go back. It's a remake of Rogue One.
Yeah.
Rogue 2.
Well, on that bombshell, I suppose we could call it. I think we'll call it a night. Thank you everyone for bearing with us. Sorry we didn't really talk about Deep Rising in any meaningful or deep way. But it's not. I mean, it's just a film we enjoy, right? I always find those kind of films hard to talk about because it's not like I've studied the history of Deep Rising in any great detail. But I think we did okay, and hopefully you guys enjoyed our discussion and got a bit of insight into how Mark and I work and how Mark works really and stuff. He's the interesting one. I'm just.
I think we both work, but not true. Not true. I think it's. I think I always enjoy how we can sort of talk about like that little experience in a way where it's kind of like I don't know. I just hope it's interesting for your awesome audience who have always been so amazing generous every time you guys have allowed me to come and ruin a show. So they've always been very generous.
It's been really good fun, man, and you've been great. Richard sent me a picture. I don't know if I can show it on the chat, but I don't know. Is that coming up? Where's my thing? There it is. It's basically he's flipping us the bird.
Flipping us off.
That must have been from my his statement that I read earlier. Anyway, cool. Right. I need to get his thing up because I need to learn. He sent me this list of instructions as to how to actually do the stream. Here you go. There's a peek behind the curtain, guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've really appreciated it, and it's been good fun. And we'll I guess see you next week. I think, although I'm not sure if Richard's working again, but if he is, I'll do something. We'll figure something out. But that's it for now. Thanks again, and we'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye.